Welcome, everybody, to the 4th edition of the Hearth and Home Podcast. My name is Clark HELLSCREAM, and today, joining me is Battlegrounds extraordinaire, lulnenko. So, lulnenko, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for us and let us know, in case we've never heard of you before, just who exactly you are, and let's get some fun facts mixed in there while we get this started.
It's a pretty deep question. Who is anyone really?
Oh, whoa.
I was actually thinking, like, how do I introduce myself to this thing? Well, I'm just sort of a dude who's gotten his hands in every part of the Hearthstone community at this point. I figure some people might recognize me from Twitch or Twitter or wherever else. I've played a bunch of Masters Tour qualifiers, one international tournament in China, and I spend a decent amount of time in the top 200 Battlegrounds. So you might have seen me around in different parts of Hearthstone, and that's how I'd sort of introduce myself.
Yeah, I definitely I realized who you were through the Twitter scene, because you're always active in a lot of the goofy threads that get posted on that, ridiculous. I'm just gonna say cesspool because that's kind of what Twitter is, but it's a beautiful cesspool because it's quite literally how, I was somewhat legitimized. But regardless, I saw you through the Twitter realm, and I really didn't know exactly what you did until you said that you went full on into the Battlegrounds for streaming and whatnot, because I always saw you in qualifiers and I knew that you were definitely someone that I wanted to try and avoid in tournaments because you're a hell of a player.
So I would say there was never a conscious decision to switch or anything, and I also I don't stream regularly by any means.
Oh, okay.
But there was never a conscious, I am a Battlegrounds main now. It was just kind of over time I realized that I can be good at one game mode at a time. There was a period where I was competing in the Wild Open and then finishing top 10 Wild, and I wasn't doing super well in Standard. There was a period where I got pretty good at Standard, got a few Masters Tour top 8s, qualified to compete in a tournament, the World Showdown of Esports that's a different thing. That's where I admin. World University Cyber Games I competed in over in China. And ever since then, I sort of started getting more into Battlegrounds, and my Standard skill kind of has slipped away, but I'm still pretty decent there. I still like to play some Standard tournaments when I get the chance.
Yeah, I kind of
still hit Legend, that kind of thing.
I'm kind of in that boat as well. I'll still hit Legend, and I did technically say that I'm quote unquote done with Open Cup tournaments, but to be honest, every now and again I'll get bored during a weekend and I'll just sign up for one at the last second and we'll see what happens. Because I ended up getting
grinding them.
I'm done grinding them too. I literally tried last season and I actually got one top 8 the first week, and then I couldn't replicate those results again, so it just kind of demotivated me in that regard.
Yeah, I think I got a top 16 in the first one I played or something like that, and then I went 0-1 4 times in a row.
God,
the last cycle.
Ain't that variance for you?
My teammate, actually, Agent PWE, managed to qualify and went 5-4 in the Masters Tour yesterday, so
yeah, congratulations
to him.
That's pretty
sick, but yeah, I'm Team No Pros here. We do a lot of just articles and content and stuff. I don't know. I feel like Hearthstone teams, for the most part, it's not really a team, because what team competitions are there anyway?
Not anymore. It used to be a
Discord
thing.
Server and a website.
Yeah, it used to be a thing back in the day. A lot being on Tempo Storm and being on F2K on their competitive team really, really meant something back in the day, because there was the Trinity series, I think, that had 3 people on a team, and I kind of miss team-based events in Hearthstone, because the best events that I participated in were actually the TESPA events, because I literally made friends at my local college, and I still talk to some of these people today, and it was literally we got together, we figured out what decks we were gonna play, we made it a thing where every single week we'd practice for a little bit and really get to know each other's play styles. And then once tournament time came, obviously we took it seriously, but if we lost, we weren't all really, really pissed. Obviously, I was probably the one taking it the most seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, it was just a lot of fun to work with other people, and it kind of takes the pressure off you a little bit, because you get to, work as a team and figure these things out versus just one person doing all the work.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And there's definitely still some like orgs running team events every now and then. Um, but I played in TESPA as well, and that was sort of my introduction to competing in Hearthstone. I think when I signed up for TESPA, I was like rank 13 non-legend. And by the time we played our first match, I was legend. So it was like a big motivating factor for me. Is like, all right, if I'm gonna compete, then I want to be good, and I want to get to a level that I'm happy with my play. And we never did like particularly well, but we were all right, and it was a lot of fun.
I
So shout out to
specifically,
my teammates from there.
I specifically remember trying to get golden heroes before tournaments, so that way I could flex on my opponents and get a little bit of like an intimidation factor, because it's like that was back in the day before everybody, like when they competed, had like golden heroes and stuff like that, because the people that have been competing have like literally been playing the game for a long time. Like what?
And you
Go ahead.
you played in the last Wild Open as well, right?
Oh god, was that actually the last one
Like
that came
February
out?
2019.
Yeah, I played in that one, and I threw my chances very, very easily.
I
I
was just looking at my matchups the other day. I went back to like look at the bracket for some reason. I had to play 3 Grandmasters in a row. I played Nalgidan, Luna, and Briarthorn back to back.
Wow, man. Like, see, like that just kind of like talks about I don't want to spend like the whole thing, like the whole first segment talking about like Hearthstone and stuff like that, but just like
Yeah.
just capitalizing on Wild particularly, because I would love to see more competitive events, because literally the Wild Open brought me back to the scene when I didn't care about Wild. All I cared about was Standard, because I just tried to do whatever I could do to get into the competitive circuit, because that was all I cared about. And then suddenly they made this event, and I worked my ass off to qualify for it. I played the deck that I had the most fun with ever, Anyfin Paladin. I still love that deck, and it's kind of breaking my heart that Blue-Gil Warrior has to die, but it's a necessary death. It needs to happen. Don't worry, Clark is understanding that Charge is not interactive. It's okay. I understand your feelings.
Well, I was definitely one of the Standard players who had never played Wild before, who saw like, oh, there's a Wild tournament coming up, and I'm like, all right, I can qualify for that.
And
then I did. I stuck with Wild for a few months after that though, and had a lot of fun. But it's just, and I was playing a lot of like smaller Wild tournaments for a time, but then those died out too. So.
And it's just because like the scene is just not supported anymore, and a lot of people just don't like the idea of not necessarily committing their time into a game that isn't going to lead anywhere, but it's like it just feels like it's abandoned. And a lot of people don't like the idea of trying to revive an abandoned game or format or something like that. And Wild just doesn't get any kind of love, it feels like, except for like, oh, we had to nerf Tiller because Tiller was uninteractive, that kind of thing.
But I mean, it's very scary as a Battlegrounds player too, right? Because they haven't shown any sort of interest in making it a competitive game. I mean, I love the mode, don't get me wrong, but like, there's probably not going to be tournaments. There's probably just not going to be any tournaments other than the sparse third-party tournaments.
Well, what about the thing they did with the streamers? Don't you think they could maybe replicate something like that? Like, I feel like the hardest thing with Battlegrounds is that you literally have to organize 8 people into one thing, and like that requires probably like a lot of like different ads and stuff like that. So you would need an interface.
So
yeah, you need an interface for something like that.
I was an admin for WSOE. We had, I want to say, about 500 people in our Battlegrounds tournament, and it was something ridiculous, like 27 rounds of Battlegrounds, and it's a nightmare trying to organize that many lobbies and keep score. Keeping score is the hardest part, because yeah, you can have people self-report, but they're not always going to be in agreement with each other, and you get lobbies where it's like 2 people claimed they were 4th because they died at the same time, and you're like, I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have to like solve a little mystery for each lobby, and there can be like 60 lobbies or 100 lobbies or something. I mean, 100 lobbies would be 800 people. We didn't have quite that much, but it was a lot.
Yeah, like, I really think that competitive Battlegrounds can be a thing, but it's extremely limited because of that factor that organizing this many people into so many lobbies. There are so many people that are adding each other. There are so many people that, like you said, are lying about their situations because That is something about card games that people need to realize, is that sleight of hand and lying is technically part of it, because the way that it works is that if your opponent doesn't realize what you did, you trick them, and that's on them. Like that's how old school poker works, and that's why people love Hearthstone, because you can't do that.
It's not even always intentional, right? There was the case recently of a player who like won a Masters Tour qualifier with a card that wasn't in their deck, and then realized later and self-reported, like gave up their spot when they realized that they had accidentally cheated.
Dude, that is honor. Good on him. Who was that? I want to give a shout out to that person.
I believe it's Algiru, who's a very, very good player.
Algiru?
Yeah. One of the best Japanese players.
Okay. Because, like, that is definitely something you don't see every day. Because, like, every now and again, I've like called people out on it, because it happens every now and again in the open tour, in the open cups. But there are some people that will just, deny to the very end. And it's like, okay, you're really going to make me get the admin, show them the screenshot while you just sit here and wait for the inevitable to happen? Like, dude, I have the screenshot. Can we just make this easier?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
What can you do?
But, what we can do is we can steer this ship into some other things aside from Hearthstone. Like, the first thing that I actually have here is what exactly do you do outside of Hearthstone? Like, are there any career aspirations that you're trying to achieve at the moment? Like, what exactly goes on when you're not playing Hearthstone?
Yeah, so let me give a little background about myself, I guess. I studied music for a while, was a big like music composition kind of guy, and I play percussion. Decently talented musician, I would say, but then kind of wanted to change. I sort of got I don't know, I was just really sick of the constant like practicing all the time, to the point where it sort of had taken the love out of it for me. So
I can relate to that so hard. I can relate to that so hard, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty common thing, and a lot of my friends in college who were studying music ended up doing something else by the end. So I ended up getting a degree in physics, graduated with a degree in physics. Then we sort of went into lockdown, and since then, all I've really been doing for work is occasional, like, I coach Battlegrounds, I admin tournaments, that kind of thing, where I'm getting a little bit of money at a time, but I haven't had any sort of full-time job. So I will be looking. Yeah, I'm actually probably moving across the country sometime this year, but I'll be looking for some sort of job where I can be using math or something. I know it's a very like vague way that I'm saying that, and I'm saying that because I don't have a PhD in physics. I'm not going to be a physicist.
Yeah.
But something math or sciencey I can probably do.
Well, like
so I'll be looking for my options.
My brother actually did something kind of similar to you, where he actually went to school for physics, because at the end of the day, he wanted to be a physics teacher, because when he was in high school, he was turned on to physics by someone who would just finish their graduate school, and had was their very first year teaching physics, and he was like the best teacher that he had ever had. So he essentially wanted to be just like that guy, making people really interested in physics. Because my brother didn't care about it at the beginning of the semester, and just, did it because it sounded interesting. And then suddenly by the end of it, he literally wanted to teach it to so many other people. Like, it was such a great thing for him. And so when he went to school and tried to do all of that, it was a lot. It was a lot on him. And it was because he was also, juggling a full-time job being a glass door installer for a shower glass company. So, like, he's doing, laboring work, coming back to do even more laboring math problems, and something had to give, unfortunately, so he decided to take a break from school and focus more on his career, and since then, he's gotten many different pay raises, so shout out to my brother for being a successful adult while I become degenerate gamer over here, but, each their own destiny.
It happens, right?
Yeah. But out of curiosity, what instruments did you do you main? Because I was awful at marimba, but I loved all the battery instruments.
So I think to an extent, you have to get that out of your system if you're studying music at university. So I would say in high school, like I played in marching band. I played marimba mostly.
Nice.
So you could say that I was more of a keyboard player, but I also did music in college for 2 years. So I played ton of snare drum, ton of timpani, ton of everything, all the little accessory type percussion, just anything you think of. I'm probably at least competent at it, with maybe a couple exceptions of things that I never really got around to learning all that well. And then obviously there's like so many rabbit holes that you can go down. Like, I'm not a fantastic Latin percussionist, for example, but that's just not something that I had dedicated a bunch of time to, I suppose.
Yeah, do you play a drum kit at all? Do you enjoy that?
Yeah, just not particularly well.
Yeah. Well,
I don't love playing set that much because it's something that I don't enjoy practicing on my own.
Oh,
I
really?
would like to, I'm totally happy to like play with people, if I'm just like jamming out, and I can bust out a basic rock beat or jazz beat or whatever, something simple, but I don't really like to sit down at the kit and play by myself. Just that's not so much what I like to do.
That's literally what I love the most. I absolutely love just sitting at my drum kit and just making absolute nonsense. Like, it's one of those things to where, like, obviously you have to like practice in order to understand what the fundamentals are and what you're supposed to do in a group setting. But every now and again, like, I believe that I have absolutely mastered the art of making something up and just working with it, because obviously, in music you can't take anything back, so you just kind of have to roll with whatever you do. So if you make a crash on the wrong beat, there's a saying in my band to where we just say that's just jazz. Like, we intended that. Just roll with it.
Right. I mean, isn't jazz just playing the wrong notes at the right time?
Exactly. That's the best way to describe it.
That's sort of my approach to playing piano, I guess. I play a lot of piano, and I'm not by any means like a classical pianist, but I'm good at making stuff up, and I have a very good knowledge of music theory, so I can make it sound like I know what's going on. It kind of looks like my camera's making me an alien right now. I'm gonna roll with it though.
Yeah, it's been doing a little thing. I unfortunately can't do anything about it.
Unfortunately, I don't know if there's anything I can do on my end either, so I'll just roll with it. But yeah, these days I mostly like to play piano and sing. I've been trying to work on my singing.
Oh, whoa, you sing? Hold on, whoa, you sing.
I've improved a lot.
You sing. We gotta know what you sing. Come on,
Yeah.
what's your vocal range? What's some stuff that you sound like for people who don't know vocal ranges and stuff? I gotta know this.
Sound like? Well, I can sort of pull up. Hold on, I'm gonna pull up like some of the songs that I've been singing recently. I think my range technically is like baritone.
Oh, so you have like vocal recordings of yourself out there, like, or at least something that you've contributed to?
Nah, I've been doing like an open mic night through Discord with some of my friends, so we like to practice our songs and just sing to each other that way.
That's actually a good idea, doing open mic in Discord.
It's a good way to get practice.
How often do you do that, actually?
Since we haven't really been able to do much in person for quite a while now, but like, I've been singing a lot of like, I don't know, I'm trying to, I guess a lot of different things, but like indie rock kind of stuff, R&B, I don't know.
Honestly, dude, it's just like when people ask you what your favorite band is. It's like, oh my god, dude, I listen to music 24/7, and now that you've asked this question, my brain is completely blank.
Yeah, I got a lot of Pine Grove songs on the list. I got a lot of Ravenna songs on the list. There's some bands that I would like to sing, but that I know that I can't really do it because my vocal range isn't there. Like, I'd love to sing Frank Ocean songs, but I can't hit the notes, and it's not effective if you bring it down enough.
I would love to be able to sing Ronnie James Dio songs. That would be the vocal range that I would be all over if I had the capability. But alas, I am no Dio.
Yeah, I mean, not many people are, though, right?
Yeah, most people aren't Dio because there's only one. There's only one Dio. Oh man, but like, still though, man, like, when it comes to like singing, it's I'm still at that position to where I can do it in my car and feel like an absolute god. But then when you put me in front of people, because like I've actually sang in front of people. That's something that people don't know about me, is that I've had a few instances where my band decided to just throw me on the microphone because somebody wanted to play drums, or I had to like go to the bathroom or something. So somebody else was taking over the drum kit, and then I just came back on stage, and then they just handed me a mic. But I've sang All-Star in front of a group of drunken 20 and 30-year-olds, so that takes the cake in terms of interesting life experiences every now and again.
And first, like starting with the caveat that I'm still not like an amazing singer, but I've gotten all right. I think part of what got me to even the point I'm at is that I'm just like habitually singing along when I listen to music. Whatever I'm doing, let's just say I'm playing Hearthstone and I have a song going. Like I'll just like without thinking about it, I'm singing harmonies to whatever it is, and if there's no harmony in the song, I'm just making up counter melodies because it's just sort of where my brain automatically goes to.
Did you ever take vocal lessons?
I did not. I only took ear training, which is not the same, but they did force us to sing.
Yeah.
So.
See, that was always something that confused me about music school, is that, okay, so I don't know how it was at other schools, but in Ball State particularly, the reason why I decided not to go into music school was because it required so many things if you wanted to be a drummer. And I'll just say it, I'm really not a percussionist. I can dabble in percussion, but if you throw a keyboard in front of me, I will look at it and it's a foreign language to me. I can play scales competently, kind of, but the moment you ask me to apply that knowledge, I can't do it. I am a rhythm person.
I'm more or less the opposite. If you put me in front of a drum kit, So.
I mean, to each their own, man. Because like I just find rhythms easier, and some people like melodies easier. So like it's just depending on what you like. But
I'm good at rhythms if I'm doing them with just my hands mostly. Well, I don't want to say on just one drum because I have plenty of experience playing around multiple drums, but kit's a sort of different.
It's a head twister. It's a head twister, especially if you're not familiar with it.
The sort of coordination required again, and I mean I've played plenty, but enough to get to like the basic level of competency where I wouldn't suck if you put me with a band, but I'm not gonna really impress anyone or blow anybody away.
And that was my problem because when I auditioned for Ball State's music school, I didn't even have all the solos well played. I couldn't sight sing. I couldn't sight read. And the only thing that I was slightly good at was the snare solo that I had prepared. And just like
sight reading is a scam, dude.
It really is. Like, and the thing that's really stupid is that for percussion particularly, you had to have a snare solo, a timpani solo, and a keyboard solo. You had to sight sing and you had to sight read. While if you were just doing like trumpet or something, you had one solo and you had to sight sing, and you had to sight read. Why does percussion have to sight read or sight sing and actual horns don't? That doesn't make sense to me. But
I had to do all that stuff, and I was composition major, music composition, but I still had to, like, the requirement was that I had to take percussion lessons and play in a bunch of ensembles as percussion.
Yep.
So I had the marimba solo, I had a timpani solo. I don't remember what else, but I imagine they made me play snare drum, and they maybe made me sight read something. I don't remember a sight reading element, but it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, it's just, and when I was trying, because like I literally tried to get into that program, I gave it like, I think I gave it like 70% effort, because that was also when I started getting heavily into esports, not full time, but I started getting into it heavily. Because the first year that I went to a DreamHack was actually my first year of college. And, well, it opened up a completely new world for me. And when I realized that music school is not only kind of a scam, but also a large waste of money and a huge waste of time, esports became the way to go.
No.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, music school would have been bad for me if I stayed, and for a lot of people it probably is. There's definitely people who get a lot out of it and make it work and make lots of connections and blah, blah, blah. but I think that they require you, at least at the school I went to, they require you to do so many things that are not necessary. If I am studying music composition, why do I have to play in the percussion ensemble and the symphony orchestra and the wind ensemble,
Yeah.
and you're making me show up to play in the opera and blah, 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 blah. It's a waste of my time. I could be writing music or doing something else.
It's like they're training you to be a flex option when you're just trying to be an expert in a few fields versus like, dude, I don't need to learn half of these instruments you're teaching me. I'm just trying to compose them, and composing them is almost like math, to where you just kind of have to know what the intervals are. Because I know like each instrument has like, you know, a B in like a clarinet isn't like the same B in like some other instruments, kind of
it's a very logical sort of thing. I think a lot of the people who go into composition are very scientific sort of minded people.
Yeah.
Like I would have thought it was surprising that I went from music to physics, but like a lot of people who are music composition people,
they're good at
like,
math.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, they're 100% good at math.
Especially like music theory, there's like this sort of mystique around music theory for a lot of people. It's just math in disguise.
Applied
if
mathematics.
You start calling the letters as numbers, it's literally just like sets. It's just like sets in math. It's just math. And composition is just then being creative with it. Obviously, there's a lot of creative aspects to it, but I think the logical-minded people are more likely to go down that path.
Yeah, like there's actually a friend of mine that I was hanging out with before I came over here. Is a good friend of mine named Daniel. And he also played music at a young age. He played violin. He was very into strings and whatnot. I don't really know why he got motivated into it, but like regardless, I remember one conversation that we had where we were just talking about pentatonic scales. And he literally said something along the lines of like, oh man, like this one pentatonic scale in like C is like really easy, but I keep screwing it up in like this other key or something like that. And I'm like, you know that it's just the same interval in every single scale, right? And then he just had like an aha moment where he's like, holy crap, you're right. And it's like sometimes you just need that little push or like that little like hint in order for all the pieces to fall together, and you just realize, wow, music is actually not as difficult as I've been making it out to be. Because that's what people do. They overcomplicate it.
Oh, yeah. They do it with rhythms, too.
Yes.
Like, people, you tell them to divide the beat into halves, and it goes, okay, 1 and 2 and 3, and they can do that. Divide it into 4, 1 E and 2 E, and they can do that.
Yep.
You tell them to do threes, and they go, what is going on? You know, and then, you know, by the time you get to like college musicians, they're like, I got this. I can do threes. You tell them to do sevens, and they're like, excuse me? But it's not that hard. You just play 7 notes until the next beat happens, and then you've done it.
You just accent different notes.
It's very easy to say as a percussionist. As a percussionist, I'm like, you know, you're going to start on your right hand and end on your left hand. And if you've played 7 notes by the time you've gotten there, congratulations.
Yep.
But, you know, easier said than done if you're telling the violinist that.
It's like, okay, play a 9-stroke roll. Excuse me? Okay, look, it's 9 strokes in a roll fashion. And there you go, literally. Like it's not that complicated, and like there are some rudiments obviously that, you know, you need to know. Like I forget what like Swiss triplets are. I think it's like you flam
there's so many
into them or something like that.
That are useless though.
Exactly. And it's like, why that was always something that I hated. It's like homework.
When am I ever gonna need to know what a lesson 25 is?
I don't even remember that. I remember, like, I remember, like,
somebody does.
I had a rudiment thing in front of me for the longest time, and I remember just like every day looking at it.
Everybody who's been a drummer or percussionist has seen that like essential rudiments chart.
The Vic Firth chart,
yep. Yeah. And probably a lot of us were given a copy of that poster at some point.
I still have. I could grab my copy right now. I literally know where it is.
I got to the point where I sort of realized, like, man, it doesn't matter how good I play Radimacue. It's not going to help me to play whatever it is. You know, maybe at the time I was playing Jacques Deleclu's like snare drum book or something. I'm like, wow, it helped me not at all that I know how to play triple paradiddles.
Yeah, like essentially what it does, like the reason why you should do that stuff is so it becomes second nature, because there's been some times when like I'm behind the drum kit and I'm like, oh crap, I have to end this on my left like right now, and so I have to like do like 3 hits in my left hand in order to make sure that I hit the right note or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why rudiments are good. It gives you those I mean, muscle memory is a bad example of it, but it gives you like those reflexes that you need to have. I guess my muscle memory is a good adjective, but like it's just something to where the more you do it, the more it'll be useful for when you actually need to pull it out. Like better to have it and not need it versus to need it and not have it.
For sure. I could go on so many like rants about like the different things that percussionists should practice. Ultimately, it's up to them, but I think getting used to excluding partials from different tuplets, that kind of thing. Like you give somebody a triplet without the middle note. Okay, it's not that hard.
I'm not gonna lie, that kind of gets me a little bit.
The first time you see it, you might be like, how am I supposed to approach that? And what hands should I be playing this on? If you can get sort of the concept through your mind of just like, all right, here's what straight triplets would be like, and now I just exclude the middle note, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was just an example, but there's different sorts of things that you can get into the habit of, or like playing some sort of simple pattern, like just a normal paradiddle or something, but putting the accent in the different places.
Or it's like subdividing, where like you have to start like, or it's like it's a main riff of like hitting like 3 or something, but you have to start it with like 1 in order to get on like the beat that you're actually supposed to be accenting on. Because like there would always be like, whenever I was doing marching band, like I don't think I told you this, but I did marching band actually all 4 years in high school and 1 year in college. But something that would always happen is that, you know, whenever we were doing exercises and we had to start with 1 while we're doing like groups of 3s, and then we had to end it on 2 because that's, you know, how it's supposed to end up. And then someone would do that last note, and then everybody would look at him like, because that was how you hazed people in freaking percussion back in the day.
And to some extent, like having that sort of ensemble experience where you've got a bunch of people playing in unison is a good way to sort of weed out the bullshit, right?
Yep.
Like nobody's gonna be playing sloppy rhythms if you're gonna know every single time. Like if you've got 5 people who are clean and 1 person who's sloppy, like they're gonna,
you can weed them out.
Get that out real quick.
Yeah.
And it's true for percussion, like mallet instruments as well. Playing marimba, you know, whatever it was that you're doing on marimba, you can tell when one person hits a different note.
Yes.
If it's in unison, or if they're playing something that's like chordal, you can tell when the timing doesn't line up, whatever it might be.
That's why I couldn't do marimba, dude, because like I had one friend who was like a prodigy. If she's somehow watching this, Erin Tubman, hit me up. It's been forever since we've like we ended up hanging out like one time before a pandemic started. But like regardless, how's it going, Erin? But like she was a prodigy, literal prodigy on the keyboard. And you stick someone like me who was like just learning music as a whole next to this person, you're like, all right, play scales with them. Of course I'm gonna be intimidated. Like it was one of those things to where like I literally had told myself for 3 years, I am not playing marimba, and I avoided it like the plague. And then comes senior year when it's like, bro, you don't know these things? It's like, yeah, I tried my hardest to literally not do it. Like every single time you guys asked me, do I want to be a part of pit or battery? I always chose battery. Because when I was on pit, I just did hand drums and auxiliary, and I hated doing stuff like that.
A lot of people, I feel like, are like that, and then if they do get into the college music kind of thing, a lot of the time they end up going the different way, and it's like, okay, I played snare drum for 4 years. I'm gonna have to sink a lot of time into mallets now, and they end up becoming a monster at mallets by the end of it. Because if you practice it enough, you're gonna get there, at least hopefully. So I definitely know a lot of people who were like that, and I know a lot of people who are very talented percussionists at this point. So
it's just always been one of those things. It's one of those things to where you have to want it as well, because when I was in college and I was trying to like learn all of this stuff, I didn't want to learn the marimba. I didn't want to learn keyboard. Like I wanted to learn piano. Like I would actually love to learn how to play piano competently. But it's just like the idea of having 4 mallets in my hand, getting like there's literal pains you have to go through when you're like doing these kind of reps.
Calluses
Yeah. Like
blisters that I had on my hands.
Why don't you go into detail about what Jesus' hands are for those who are not familiar with the marimba world, because they might learn something today about how painful it is to literally learn music.
I never really used that type of grip where you're gonna get these sort of marks in the middle of your hand or anything like that. So I can't speak to that too much. I'm familiar with the phrase, sort of referencing that. Depending on how you grip your mallets, you can potentially end up like tearing the skin in the middle of your hand. But no, sort of using the Stevens grip, they call it. You don't really end up with that so much, but a lot of blisters like here, tips of fingers, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I always had issues with this side of my hand.
Up and continuing. Yeah, I played a lot of marimba, and I still think that 4 mallets feels super awkward. Like no amount of playing, maybe if you play like thousands of hours, but
you have to.
But to me, like there was never a point where it's like, oh yeah, this feels comfortable now. I got to the point where I could play pretty smoothly and play octaves and all that good stuff that takes a while to develop, but it's still like not something that you're just comfortable with necessarily.
Yeah, like it literally took me like a while before I like got used to just like literally moving, because like something else that's really weird is that you have to do this, so it's like you're kind of like rolling your hands kind of.
It's sort of this motion. If you can have like a flat wall or something and do this against it, then you can do a one-handed roll. It's the same motion, even though it might not seem like it. But even that, like my right hand is a lot worse at it than my left hand. I can't do as cleaner rolls. I can't do, some of my permutations aren't as good.
Wait, are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm right-handed.
And
my left hand is a lot more smooth on marimba.
Wow, that's actually roll-wise. That's very awkward. That's not very common.
I think it's pretty normal for marimba specifically, but I don't know. It's a strange instrument, especially because like you've got a mallet that you're controlling essentially entirely with these 2 fingers.
Yeah.
So you have to develop pinky strength. What else calls for pinky strength?
Yeah.
So I had like this sort of exercise you do where you reach your pinky down to the bottom of your hand and pull it up, and that'll develop your pinky strength. But it's kind of a strange thing to have to do, isn't it?
You're literally like reigniting so many college memories from me, just having late nights trying to like learn these techniques and stuff like that. Because I was also taking lessons okay, so this is kind of a funny story. So the guy that I took lessons with auditioned to be in my band and made it. we had multiple percussionists because essentially what the Indigos are trying to do is they had they wanted someone who was like really really good at drums, and this was before I was 100% committed to the band. And how are you going to say no to someone with a PhD in percussion being your drummer? So
that's crazy.
They had him as the primary drummer, and like I was just like literally under his wing while I was taking marimba lessons. And I vividly remember like the band practice where it was his very first time trying out with us, because I was just like I was essentially going to be the drummer. Like I was the only person that really stuck with all the other tryouts, and the only person that they really liked, and I was the only person that also knew all the fucking music that would also help those other drummers.
Sure.
But then they literally said that, hey, we have one more person who's going to be auditioning for the group. He's a Ball State instructor in the percussion department, and I'm like, is this name Bruno by chance? And they're like, wow, how'd you know? And it's like, well, funny story.
That's actually wild.
Yeah, dude. Like, and then the funny part is they liked my drumming better than his.
I mean, Yeah.
And
it can happen, right?
the reason why that happened though is because I'm gonna say this right now. He's 100% a better music player than me, but I've had more experience in drum set gigs, and something that happens very, very commonly with people that love to play drum kit but don't do it very often in a group setting is that they're very busy. And there were some songs that we were playing to where he was just going like Travis Barker, like fucking nuts all over the place, and it's like, dude, this is a da na 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 song. Like, we don't have to go all in on that kind of thing.
You ever listen to Hella?
Hella?
You know who Zach Hill is?
Wait, Zach Hill?
Yeah.
I don't think I know who that is.
Well, Zach Hill is one of the members of the group Death Grips, and formerly the drummer from Hella. Anyway, check him out. I know Death Grips. In most types of music. Okay, yeah. He's drummer for Death Grips, but formerly for the math rock band Hella, and his drum set parts are ridiculous. It wouldn't fit almost anything else because he would be overplaying the crap out of anything you could possibly imagine. But for like a math rock kind of band, it's really sick, and it's just incredible that somebody can be like so all over the place and then play it the next day the exact same way.
Yeah, Hat and I were actually talking about a few different math rock groups. Oh, God, I forget some of the ones that he referenced, but the band that he turned me on to actually, I believe, was Battles.
Oh yeah, I love Battles.
Yeah, like they're right up my alley.
Their first album, but yeah, it's really cool. A lot of their stuff is like, it's not that it's crazy meters or anything. A lot of it is 4/4. Pretty like straightforward, but the way that the rhythms lock together is very unusual, and it's a lot of fun.
And like I've been listening to, I think it's Tonto. Like that song has been like my jam since I interviewed Hat, and I need to go through the other songs that he suggested to me, because he sent me like a whole bunch. Like I think he sent me 3 of those and then one other band. But regardless,
he's always good for recommendations for sure.
The dude is just knowledgeable. Like, my God, if you need anything, the dude just knows what's up. Like, he actually helped me get my computer set up off the ground. Fun fact.
Sometimes I'll just message Hat about random things.
I'm
just like, this seems like something Hat might be interested in.
He's just a homie. Like, shout out to Hat, even though I literally had him on the podcast last episode. But, like, everybody knows who he is.
Yeah, for sure. He mentioned to me that This Town Needs Guns, or TTNG, came up in the conversation.
Oh, God. Oh, no. He wants me to tell you the story of... Oh, man.
Okay. Oh, no. Is there a story?
There's a story that I said that I would tell, and this is the reason why I like to say that this is very similar to the Joe Rogan experience, that what I'm trying to do, because I'm not afraid to talk about my dabbles with experimenting with drugs. Because the very first time that I listened to them, I was tripping acid. And like I specifically remember looking at the album and like looking at every single animal that, because I was listening to the Animals record. I was looking at it, everything was like blurring around and stuff like that, and I was like listing off all the animals and stuff like that. And then my friend, cheeky as hell, was just looking at me as like, did you know that all the tracks are actually like all the tracks are animal names and all the animals are on there? And it fucking blew my mind. And it was just like, we literally were just like sitting in a garage, losing our minds to this album. We literally were looking at like a wooden oh God, I'm failing the word, ceiling. Looking at a wooden ceiling, and we saw Indians just like moving around while like this stuff, like while the band was playing. And oh my God, dude, just it was one of the best musical experiences that I've ever had, just sitting down, listening to a record. And every single time I pull it up,
that's one of my favorite albums of all time.
It's like, so relaxing.
I haven't listened too much to their other stuff because I like Stuart a lot more as a vocalist than Henry. Sorry, Henry, if you're listening to this, although I know you're not. But man, I just love that album.
Yeah, man. Like I've had a lot of good memories with that album. A good friend of mine, June, actually recommended that album to me years ago, and we finally got around to just like sitting around listening to it. And since then, like every single time I pull it on, I think about good memories. I think about that night, because how can you not? And it's just like I also particularly like music that is not necessarily like complicated for complicated's sake, but I like music that's like, it kind of makes you think twice about what you're hearing, and it's like, wait a minute, where's the one? I lost track of the one. What happened?
Yeah, I love anything that's like off the beaten path a little bit, and it doesn't have to be like we're playing our asses off because we can, but like that album's a good example of like the lyrics are memorable, the melodies are catchy, it's all like just great songwriting, but at the same time it's like impossible to play.
It is so busy, and it's just like when you try to like learn something like that, like even tabs aren't even that useful. Like, good lord, dude.
I've tried to learn some of their music and haven't gotten a ton of progress, but it's still fun.
The only other person from the Hearthstone scene that I know is aware of that band is actually Monsanto. Monsanto has listened to them. Yeah, he's listened to them a few times, literally on his stream before DMCA and all that kind of stuff was going on.
Oh yeah, that's sick.
But yeah, like, great band. Would highly recommend anybody check out the Animals record. Clearly, I have good memories with that record.
Have you listened to the acoustic version as well?
I've listened to some of them, but I haven't listened. Did they do the whole album acoustic?
Yeah. So background,
oh, really? Okay.
For anyone who doesn't know, Animals came out in 2008. And then the vocalist at the time left the band in like 2011. He came back 10 years later in 2018 to do a whole acoustic version of that album, 10-year anniversary of Animals. They re-recorded every song acoustic, and it is just as good as the original version of the album. It's incredible. New arrangements for everything. There's instruments that weren't on it the first time. The vocal performances are just as incredible, like, even though he hasn't been in the band for years at that point. So, yeah, I would recommend that as well. But I guess at the point where you're recommending an acoustic version of an album, I would just recommend listening to the original first because it's kind of a classic. But
it's one of those things to where you should listen to the original and then you have an appreciation for the remake because, well, everything that you just said. Like, it's literally a musician revisiting their own music 10 years later and adding their own flair to it. You're literally adding flair to your own music. Excuse me.
And honestly, I mostly listen to the new versions of the songs at this point, but like obviously no disrespect to the original. I love those too.
Well, like that kind of just happens because I will like there's one song I've been listening to a lot from Korn actually. They covered an Alice in Chains song. Oh god, I forget which one it is. I should probably Google that real quick. But like when that came out, I was like, dude, like I love this cover of it, and like Alice in Chains is just like one of those bands to where like, you know, only that band really can do that kind of genre very well. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say the genre, but like when someone covers like grunge in particular, and they're not a grunge act, it kind of ruins the delivery a little bit, in my opinion, because grunge is just like one of those things where like you need to have like those kind of like not necessarily like raspy vocals, but you need some kind of like griddle vocals, in my opinion.
A lot of the time when people cover music, just in general, when people cover music, a lot of the time it comes out kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like there's lots of great covers out there, but then there's also stuff that just comes off like it just feels like you didn't really get the point of the song, or you didn't really capture what people liked about the song in the first place.
It looks like a Korn covered Wood.
There's great stuff too.
Looks like Korn did their cover of Wood by Alice in Chains, and I would highly recommend that because like it's mostly just because like the instrumental of that cover is so good, because like something I am an absolute whore for delay effects. I love delay effects. Oh my god, fill my ears with it, dude.
My taste in music is so eclectic, and it's sort of that stereotype of like if somebody asks you what genre you listen to and you say, well, I listen to every genre, but
everything but there's always a but in there.
Yeah, it's like I listen to everything but country or whatever.
That's quite literally me. I hate to say that. Like I will listen to everything but I like some country, but it needs to be actual country, not that cracking open a beer and losing your girl and dating your pickup truck thing.
That's kind of what I was gonna say though. Is like there's definitely these sort of subgenres that I avoid. Like I don't really listen to much modern country music. I don't listen to like
pop country, as I like to call it.
I don't listen to much jazz. I don't listen to much metal. But I do really listen to a lot of different things, and even within those, like, okay, I might listen to a Mastodon record or something.
Ooh, so good. Love Mastodon.
there's no I never there's no indictment of a genre for me, and I try not to like limit myself too much for that because there's so many things that I've found that I'm like I didn't originally think that I would listen to fill in the blank, but I ended up really loving it. I used to not listen to a lot of like R&B music. Now I've started listening to Ravina all the time, and from there I've sort of opened up my my horizons, I guess, and started listening to a lot of other R&B music. So I think I don't know. I just try to be open minded, I guess.
That's the way to be. Like, and speaking of open minded, I got an interesting music question for you, and I will go ahead and give you my answer so you know exactly what I'm trying to get out of you. But I'm gonna ask you what is the weirdest genre that you would say is one of your favorites? And for me personally, I absolutely love folk metal. Folk metal, in case you guys don't know, is a subgenre of heavy metal to where they use folk instruments such as pan flutes, such as bagpipes, lutes, you name it. Like if it belongs in a tavern, if it sounds like it's something that could be in Hearthstone, but it's more like upbeat and heavy, that's exactly what I love. Like metal Hearthstone is the best way to describe it because it's very upbeat. It's oftentimes very rich in in lore, depending on what you're listening to. Like oh god, I can't think of any bands right off the top of my head. But like, okay, wait, Korpiklani. Korpiklani is a great example because they're not like lore based, but all it is just a bunch of Scandinavians Scandinavians talking about how much they love drinking. Their three most popular songs, I believe, are vodka, beer, and tequila. So, needless to say, all folk metal is about is just having a good time. And, every now and again you make bagpipes work in a metal song. And let's be honest, if you can make bagpipes work in any musical composition, you deserve a fucking medal.
I have so much respect for people who will do something like that. And it's kind of like, I was thinking about this, like the music that I hate is music where it's like really boring to listen
Literally,
to.
Same.
I'm never going to be bored. If somebody puts like a bagpipe in a metal song, I may or may not think it works. Maybe I'll hear it and go, well, I don't really want to listen to this again, but I'm not going to be mad at it. I'm not going to be bored. I'm going to be like interested in listening to like, oh, they chose to do this and this. And that kind of thing is very interesting to me.
Yeah, your homework today is to look up Korpiklani's Vodka because I believe there's bagpipes in that song. I know there's bagpipes for sure in tequila. But vodka is like their...
I'll have you type out that to me so I can...
Okay, yeah, that's actually a good idea. Yeah, Korpiklani is spelled really weird. Okay, it's for chat or for people that are listening over the audio, it's Korpiklaani. That's how you spell Korpiklani. Very Scandinavian.
So I feel like my answer to this question, I could sort of go in a few different directions. So first, I want to just mention something that I don't really listen to much, but I just want to bring it up because I think it's fascinating. Have you ever heard of lowercase as a genre of music?
Lowercase? What? Like lowercase letters?
Yeah, so first of all, I'll acknowledge this isn't something that I'm just sitting around listening to all the time. But lowercase is sort of a genre of like listening to sort of like ambient sounds mic'd up.
Like ASMR?
Really, I'd compare it more to like field.
Oh, okay.
Recordings.
Okay, so just like it's
like ambient music, but what they do is that they would just like stick a microphone somewhere. Let's say it's like out in the forest, like rustling leaves or something. They would take a sound that's like something really soft and amplify it so that you're sort of, it's like you're hearing the sounds that you're sort of like usually just only like sort of aware of that they're there. I think it's kind of an interesting concept.
This kind of sounds like... I don't
really listen to that music much, so...
This kind of sounds like something you'd hear like a spa or something like that, like what you're explaining to me.
And I think it's more of like something that people did just to try to push the envelope and be different, but...
I mean, that...
maybe a good answer for like stuff that I listen to a lot is like hyper pop or sort of art pop music, people who are making music that sounds like pop music but is really sort of out there and pushing the envelope. Clarence Clarity, his music has been described as funk played by a swarm of bees. I'm a huge fan.
What, swarm of
Clarence
bees?
Clarity.
So,
Yeah.
I'm gonna need some context on that.
100 Gex. I love 100 Gex. And 100 Gex is sort of a band who are anybody who's heard them has like a visceral reaction. They're immediately like, this is the greatest thing ever, or they're like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Who would listen to that? And I just have a lot of respect for that. Yeah, I guess that's sort of my answer. Anything that's sort of like playing off of the pop music world and saying like, let's make our music catchy and poppy, but at the same time make it weird and see what we can do with it.
Okay, I can definitely respect that, because what you said earlier about like music being boring or being lazy, I forget the exact term that you used, but like that is exactly
Either way.
That is like my biggest objection with like the music industry, is that it's so formulaic. Like it literally doesn't matter who, like, okay, it doesn't even matter who's singing as long as they're attractive, and you can sexualize it. That's literally what a lot of pop feels like, is that you're just sexualizing whoever this pretty person is. You auto-tune their voice so that way they fit the narrative of, oh, this person's beautiful, so they have to have a beautiful voice. And then it goes on to make millions and millions of dollars because it's literally what is being like sold on like the major networks or whatever, or it's being like licensed and stuff.
It's kind of weird because like I feel like there's stuff on the radio that's great. It's not even that like everything popular is bad or anything like that. There's definitely even popular artists that I like, but there's also some of these songs that are becoming hits, and I won't make too many enemies by listing too many names, but there's some things that are just like so unlistenable to me because it's just like,
I'll go ahead and go ahead and make an enemy. I'll just say that the Cardi B's WAP or WAP or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Oh, I have no problems with that song.
Like I didn't like that one particularly, and it's only because it's just like I get what the song is trying to talk about, but it's like, is this necessary? I don't know. Like the only reason why I
have no problems with Cardi B. You know what song I hate? Just to pick a random song.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know the song "Grenade" by Bruno Mars?
Oh wait, hold on. How does I know the song, but you're gonna have to remind me how it goes. I play so many Bruno Mars songs and they all sound the same to me. Oh, okay, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no.
it's just the most cliche. Like, I'm gonna kill myself for you. I love you so much. I'll step in front of a train. I hate that song so damn much.
I agree with that. Like there are some songs that are just like cheesy for the sake of being cheesy, or like love songs, for example. Like, unless you actually are making this piece for someone you care about, can we just end love songs in general? Because they're the most, like, they're literally like the reality TV of music, in my opinion. Because if you're not actually, if these feelings aren't real, if these feelings aren't towards one person in particular, it's fake, and it's not gonna hit the same way.
Equally.
Literally. Pick a favorite child, Mom. Come on. That's the most BS answer you can give me.
I don't know. And, like, I hate the recent Justin Bieber hit, and I'm not even saying this to pick on Justin Bieber. Like, he's got songs I don't mind.
I think I actually heard that song the other day.
I'm so lonely, and the whole song is about how he's lonely. I'm kind of just like, man, I don't care.
If you're gonna be lonely, you better be Joji. Because I will say right now, like, I did not really like the genre that Joji does. I don't really know exactly what to describe it, but it's like sad boy music, I guess, is the first thing that comes to mind. But oh my god, Joji, in the right, like, if you catch me at the right time of day, or I should say right time of night, and I'm not feeling 100%, and you play Sanctuary full blast, as soon as that chorus starts, I'm gonna be crying along with the fucking song. And like,
there's some Joji stuff I really like. definitely. And that kind of came out of left field, right? Because he was such a memer before that. But
Were you into those YouTube days of Filthy Frank? Because I will let you know that
not so much, but like I had seen a good handful of the videos.
I was so deep down that side of YouTube during that time because I was subbed to Filthy Frank, I was subbed to Max Mofo, I was subbed to anything for views, iDubbbz, like anyone who came on that channel, I was keeping in my loop, and it's actually how I figured out about. Well, I already knew about How To Basic, but then I rekindled that flame for How To Basic. But oh my god, one of my favorite videos from the Filthy Frank days, and this is something that Drunk Clark really wants to do, and like I'm never probably gonna get the friends to do this because no one should do this, but Drunk Twister was so goddamn funny that I would love to do that with friends, but like it's not something I should do.
No, but it's probably fun, right?
It would be so funny, like literally, can you smell what the Rock is cooking? I don't think I've laughed that hard at a skit in so long, just because. Oh my god, that was another thing I liked about Filthy Frank, is that like it was so far left field that you couldn't help but watch it. Like, of course I'm gonna watch these people make a cake out of hair. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I respect that as well. Hold on a second.
Like, what was
Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna let you. You were talking about like a YouTube video or something you're pulling up.
I was about to look at sort of what music I've been listening to, but I don't know. It's such a strange thing where like your taste in music develops over time, but at the same time you like latch on to the things that you liked from before. So there's so many bands that I probably wouldn't listen to if I just heard them now, but the fact that I've been listening to them for such a long time,
I can actually understand that, because like I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a guilty pleasure, but like Avenged Sevenfold is a band that literally got me into the metal genre. I saw them live one year when I was going to go see a 3 Days Grace concert, but Avenged Sevenfold was the main headliner. It was just like an overall like music festival where it was oh god, it was Bullet for My Valentine, Bullet for My Valentine, Falling in Reverse, Seether, 3 Days Grace, and Avenged Sevenfold. And after that after I saw that concert, I was like, wow, I love metal music. I want to get way more into this type deal. And I absolutely loved it. And nowadays, when I listen back to some Avenged Sevenfold, I'm like, like, I mean, I still love the songs, like, don't get me wrong, but like every now and again I could be like, okay, I can kind of understand why some people don't like this band.
Yeah, but that's also like Linkin Park for a lot of people, you know? Linkin Park sort of got a lot of people into hip hop who weren't interested in hip hop, and got a lot of people into like rock and metal who weren't interested in that.
I got into rock because of that. Yeah, you hit it on the nail. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, so did I. And like I'll go and listen back to the old Linkin Park albums. If I just heard them now for the first time, I probably wouldn't like it, but I have a lot of like nostalgia for it. And to just go on a separate side rant for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
The sort of like concept of a musical guilty pleasure really doesn't sit well with me, because it like sort of implies that there's music that you should feel bad for listening to, right? And maybe that's true if it's like R. Kelly, you know, if you're like listening to somebody who's just an objectively terrible person in your life.
Yeah, okay.
But if it's just like, if you're like, oh, I feel guilty because I listen to K-pop, or I feel guilty because I listen to Creed, or whatever it is, it's like, don't feel bad. Wear that shit with honor. If like, I'll admit I listen to K-pop music, and a lot of people hate it, and it's fine if they hate it. I like it. I think it's happy, and I enjoy it. So who cares? And it's the same thing with any sort of music, you know. At the same time, like, I'll still crap on bands I don't like. I'll talk about how much I hate Imagine Dragons for hours, but, but at the end of the day, it's nothing against people who listen to that, and I don't think they need to feel guilty for listening to that. But anyway,
when you said Creed,
that's my tangent.
When you said Creed, it made me think about how, like, I don't like Creed, and I make fun of people who listen to Creed, but at the same time, if you play the song with arms wide open everyone in the stadium is gonna sing that song along because everybody knows that track. Like, and even if they don't know the lyrics, they're still gonna sing along to it. Or like, "Can You Take Me Higher?" or whatever the fuck that song's called. Like, that's another one that everyone will know.
I feel like there's like definitely contexts in which people will get hyped for music that they would not have normally been hyped for, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Like, case in point, like, this actually goes into like a tangent that I kind of want to go on to, where like people can easily ruin music for me, and I absolutely hate it when that happens. So like, case in point, I can't listen to Evanescence "Bring Me Back to Life" anymore. I just can't. It's been ruined, and it's been ruined because of that one meme that came up, like with All Star or whatever, where he just starts. Oh yeah, it's the instrumental.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's
like the guy. It's like the shot of just his chin.
And here's the thing: that guy has actually posted drum covers, and they're legitimately good. He has done Tool drum covers. Yes, he's a legitimate drummer, and he's not the greatest in the world, but he can still competently play the instrument, and he's actually got a very impressive drum kit. Like, ooh, my god. But like, God, it's just I can't listen to that song without thinking about the memes, because the memes have just ruined it for me.
Okay, I get that. I'm trying to think what's been ruined like that for me. Nothing immediately comes to mind, but like I know there are some for sure.
The one of the Naruto main themes. Oh god, which one is it? It's like like that one. Like, it's just you just as soon as I see somebody running like with the Naruto run or whatever, I immediately think of that song. Oh my god. I'm trying to think of like some other songs. Like, I mean, the radio kind of does that every now and again, because like whenever I hear Metallica's Inner Sandman, like I gotta be in the mood for that. Like, I gotta be in the mood in order to hear like songs that I've heard like 15 million times, just because the radio has ruined it for me.
For sure. And I think some of those, like, if you don't hear a song for a long enough time and you go back to it, you might be happy to hear it again. I sort of take an approach to listening to music that's kind of I don't know, maybe unusual, because I think a lot of people who listen to as much music as I do really get into like making playlists and keeping track of things and trying to keep up with new releases. And I try to be like as relaxed about it as possible. What I do whenever I'm listening to music is I just search for the artist that pops into my head, and I just listen to that. Don't make any playlists, nothing like that. And then at the end of the year, I'll go back and like for a couple months, just like December into January, every single day I listen to like a full album that I maybe missed from the last year.
Ooh, okay.
Try to get caught up and find a lot of good stuff that way. So I don't know, it's sort of a strange approach where I just got into the habit of making year-end lists that are like, here are my favorite albums from this past year, and I had to force myself to listen to some of the albums that I missed before I could do that. Sort of got me into the habit of like casually listening for most of the year and then taking a period to sort of catch up on anything that I think I might like. I don't know.
Well, I think what you're doing though is like you're appreciating everything that an artist has to offer. Because something that I absolutely loved is like, ooh, I found one song from a band that I am starting to like. I'm gonna listen to everything. I'm gonna see if I like this band. Because that was something that I did a lot, is that I either listened to an entire album or I listened to one song from a band and that was it. And like I'm like more days, more so recently. I guess it's like been like throughout my entire life now that I think about it. But like I will like no life one song for like a couple of days, not listen to it for like a week, and then I'll just come back to it every now and again. And I'll be like, yeah, I love this track. It's like I'll listen to it a whole bunch of times so that way I can like remember it, because I like to think of music as like puzzles and every now and again, because especially as a drummer, I want to be able to just like listen to something and be like, yeah, I can play that. I know that beat. I just learned that just listening to it.
That's kind of interesting. I think a lot of the time I take more of like the compositional approach to music, and I don't really have any way around it. It's just like when I'm listening, so much of the time I'm sort of like automatically like thinking about, oh, that's a 6-bar phrase there. That's kind of unusual, or whatever it might be, you know?
Well, it's like when, like, if you're a singer, you're listening to the vocals. If you're a guitarist, you're listening to the guitar. If you're a bassist, you're listening to the bass. Like, it's just whatever you spend the most time practicing is what you're automatically going to be tuned to hearing once you listen to literally anything.
Yeah, and I'm a big melody guy. I'm a big vocals guy. I listen to a lot of things. I don't, and I was thinking about this before I came on this show because I thought we might talk about drums a bit. I was realizing I don't really pay that close of attention to the drums in a lot of songs. And I can notice when they're doing something cool or unusual, certainly, but it's not where my ear goes automatically. My ear goes more to the melodies, I think, most of the time. And that's sort of the composition side of things, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense because, like, all I do is listen. Like, I am, like, hardcore listening to the drum beat 100%. Like, I am taking in everything else and, like, especially with, like, actually with, like, all music. I was about to say specifically with metal, but, like, with all music, I'm always listening to the bass because obviously the bass is, like, the drummer's best friend. Like, if you are a drummer and if you are a bassist and you two are not, like, tight, like good friends and tight actually, like with your music too, like, dude, you need to rekindle that relationship because battery.
There's got to be some trust there for sure.
You're literally the heart of the band. The soul is the vocals and the guitar, but you as the bassist and the drummer are quite literally the heartbeat of the band. And if there's a miscommunication between valves, there's gonna be something going on.
I sent you this image that's just like my top played artist so far this year. But anyway, it's just
only one
like,
I recognize is MF Doom.
MF Doom, man, rest in peace. That's
R.I.P.
such a shame. But what a legend. And Madlib, of course, produced a lot of those MF Doom tracks that are really well known. Mad Villainy, they made that album together. It's been a tough year for that reason, losing a lot of great people. MF Doom, unfortunately, one of them. But
yeah, I'm surprised that they were able
cool
to.
New stuff coming out as well too.
I was surprised they kept that under wraps as long as they did. And like, I'm not gonna lie, like the only reason I know about MF Doom is because my brother was a huge MF Doom fan, and he immediately turned me on to it. And I remember actually when I went to Montreal, we were listening to that record on the way there because we had 15-hour car ride. Like we had a lot of music playing for that trip. Have you gone on any road trips or anything like that before?
You know, I guess a lot of times just between Phoenix and San Diego as a kid, but nothing like as an adult that was like a big road trip except my freshman year of college, some of my friends and I took a trip up from Atlanta to Indianapolis for a
Whoa,
which is a percussion.
Really?
Convention.
That's my place. What's up, dude? That's where I live. I'm literally living in Indy.
I've been to Indianapolis probably 4 or 5 times. There's a lot of like percussion and band type things.
Yeah, PASIC. PASIC.
Yeah, so I was there for PASIC 1 year. This was probably 2015, I would guess, is when I went.
Wait, I literally went to that.
Oh, really?
Literally, that was the only one that I went to. The 2015, because wait, hold on. Wait, was that 2015? Wait.
That's sick, actually.
Wait, hold on. Okay, was that 2015? Was it 2015? Wait. Okay, wait, no. I went to 2016, I think. It was either 2016 or 2017. You almost got me excited there for a second.
I might have gone 2014.
Okay, I went during college, and I graduated 2015. So, okay, it was 2017 then. It was 2017. Okay, I got super excited for nothing. Oh my, but oh my god, we actually would have been at the same event.
Still though, it's pretty cool. And like, it's very much like if you're a percussion nerd kind of thing. It's like, okay, well, I get to see a lot of people I've heard about and maybe watched play on YouTube. Get to see them live in one place.
And you get to see gear before it's released. That's the cool thing about it. You can literally buy it. You can get this shit before it's released. It's so cool.
I like to like play all the instruments they had out, and then, like, I'm not gonna buy this thing. I'm not gonna buy like a $30,000 instrument at a convention and take it back to Atlanta. But they'll let me play it, and I can act like I know what I'm doing because I can sort of play this.
Wait, hold on. Yeah. So you live in Atlanta, right?
Close to.
Did you go to the DreamHack Atlanta?
Nah.
Ah,
Nah, so there
okay.
was only one time that it actually ran while I was a Hearthstone player, and it was just pretty expensive to compete. It was like $85 and didn't seem worth it to me. So I unfortunately did not.
Yeah, I road tripped down from Indianapolis actually. I picked up a friend in Tennessee, in Nashville actually, Ironfire, if you remember him. Uh,
Not
super
really.
super underrated player.
Hmm.
He ended up top eighting Dream. Wait, no, was it top 8 or he either top 8 or top 16 a DreamHack event, and ended up like throwing out Muzzy in one of the events because he ended up getting ooze all 3 games against his Q block. It was pretty funny.
Nice.
But yeah, like Ironfire was a really good friend of mine. I picked him up in Nashville, and we went all the way down to that tournament. We got an Airbnb together, split the cost. Really helped me out. And yeah, it was one of the most fun events that I had because it was the first time that I had ever road tripped actually. Like it was just it was my car. I had driven down, and like yeah, it was like a liberating experience almost. I really don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. I mean, I don't have a lot of like LAN experiences like that. We would travel from where I am to Atlanta is probably about 45 minutes. I went down there, played in the Georgia Tech tournaments once or twice, played in a tournament at Georgia State, but nothing. There was never a time that I traveled super far to do anything or like traveled to something really big like a dream hack.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna
Maybe
lie. Oh, go ahead.
maybe next year if those types of things come back.
Yeah, I'm hoping that something will happen. Like, I can let you know that right now. Like, since I'm with House Rivalries, we're actually partnered with DreamHack. That they're definitely interested
Right.
in doing something like that in the future. Just definitely has to be worth their time. And obviously, with with the pandemic, everything has to be safe. But they're definitely interested because the last year that I went to a LAN was actually DreamHack Montreal 2019. It was
Mm,
September of that year, and like they had a Hearthstone event technically, but it was the first time in like years that they didn't have like an actual like major at that event. It was just like
right.
a little cup that people could apply for if they wanted to do something. And like I wanted to go see friends, and my brother wanted to go to a DreamHack for his very first gaming convention, so I didn't mind traveling for something like that. Like 15-hour car ride, like you better be having a reason to do that. like, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, man. Like, I still think that DreamHack is very much interested in Hearthstone, but with everything that's going on with like the Masters Tour system, like there's really no reason for them to get involved.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation for sure. Um, like I said earlier, I was fortunate enough to get to compete in China once. I won an online qualifier to represent the United States in like a collegiate thing over there, which was super sick, but it's the only time I've played in like something like that. Um, would love to have more of a chance to compete in person and maybe not lose in the first round.
Wait, did you like actually go to China?
Yeah, I went to China.
Oh hell yeah! I thought you were just talking
So
about like a online event. How was that? How
no,
was that?
no, I went to China. So it was a crazy experience, and definitely shout out to the people I met there, like Eddie, DeVito, Matthias, everybody who competed. And there were some really great players. Like Eddie ended up winning it, and he's a grandmaster, obviously. Um, we had a great time because like we were able to go up to this rainforest that was there. We were able to like we went on a yacht. I got to jump off of a yacht into the
Whoa,
bay
that
in
sounds
the
tight.
Sanya Bay. So it was just a wild experience for me, and they paid for my flight and everything. So basically, I got a free trip to China. The actual Hearthstone tournament, I mean, it was 6 deck best of 9, and I lost 2-5 in the first round.
Oh,
So it was like I'm stretching to find 6 decks right. So I've got this Murloc Paladin, and I'm just getting so demoralized because I'm like,
what
oh,
meta?
I have the 4 mana card that draws a I have prismatic lens in my hand, right? And then I draw both my copies of Tip the Scales, and I'm like, oh, just get me out of here.
Okay, so this was during this was during.
This was Doom in the Tomb. This was
Doom of the Tomb, yeah.
The meta where they brought back the wild cards into Standard. So we were playing Evolve Shaman. I was playing Galakron Warrior, but I probably should have been playing this off Control Warrior, Highlander Mage, that kind of thing.
Dude, I remember that meta as the meta that killed my motivation to play competitive Hearthstone tournaments.
Oh, that was my favorite meta ever.
Oh man, I hate Evolve Shaman and Combo Priest. Those were the two main decks during that meta. Oh my god.
My favorite was actually the one right before that, before they brought back the wild cards, because I think Quest Shaman was a lot more fun without Evolve in it. But
wait, so right when Old Doom dropped?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved
when the Highlander cards came out,
because I love Quest Shaman.
Oh yeah, Quest Shaman was really good too. Like that was okay. The reason why I have bad memories of that meta is because I hate Combo Priest, like the Inner Fire combo variant, and I also do not like Evolve Shaman. I think it's one of the worst decks that has ever existed in the game because of how uninteractive it is.
Right?
It's super obnoxious. We're just gonna end that conversation there because I have nothing happy to say about that deck. But I ended up getting second place in an Arlington Open Cup during that meta. And the only reason why I got second place is because I know the guy who beat me. It was actually Dmitry Kovac. Oh god.
Kazov.
Wait, was it Dimitri or was okay? It was either him or it was somebody else that was like TMKO or something like that. It was one of those two guys.
Yeah, I know him as well.
But they essentially had the lineup that countered mine because I had brought Quest Shaman, Resurrect Priest, and Control Warrior, and the only lineup that I could not go up against was Combo Priest, Evolve Shaman, and I think a Rogue lineup. I think that was the lineup I was trying the most to avoid. I had dodged it the entire time. The one time that I went up against it, the guy had disconnected or didn't check in. So I got really lucky in that department. But then final round got the one lineup I couldn't beat, and he swept me. I had no hopes, and it was the most frustrating thing I had ever had. And that was back when I was living at my mom's place, actually, right after college didn't work so well for your boy. And that was just even more on top of that because I was not in a good place emotionally. And when you get a fat L as second place, I've also gotten second place in other tournaments, so I could tell you that story later. I won't go into that right now, but I don't do well with second. I don't do well with second place. Give me last. I don't like.
Well, right. That's the second best finish is like to get eliminated in the first round. You can go get a soda, right?
Or you could sign up for the next cup.
Let me send you this lineup that I top 8'd with during that meta, though, because it's hilarious.
Varian win with Sea Giant? Whoa, what?
I was running Mermy in this deck. I was running Ornery Tortoise. I was running Safeguard.
Oh, wait, this is wild. Okay, this is wild.
Column. No, this was standard. This was a top 8 in a Masters Tour qualifier.
Wait, Ragnaros was? Oh, wait, because Doom in the Tomb, right?
This was the Doom in the Tomb meta.
Right.
So this was
they
on
did
Asia,
bring
right?
back Rag.
They brought back these legendary cards from Wild, and they made them free to all players. So I'm like, I don't have a collection on Asia, but I can build a deck where I just jam in every single free legendary plus Zephrys, which I opened in a pack, and it's like, all right, I can put N'Zoth in and then just pick one card or two cards from every. So that's why there's Mermy, Fairy Dragon, Ornery Tortoise. It's like, yeah, it's just a tempo bomb. Who cares if it's not that good? And I got top 8 with it. And then the next day I got top 8 again.
God damn, dude. This just goes to show that if you play a deck that you understand and you play it well, who knows what you can accomplish with it. Because I actually kind of remember like seeing a lineup similar to that. Like the Highlander Warrior is what's kind of throwing me back. Because like people had some really jank lineups back during this meta. Because like goddamn, like with Ragnaros being brought back alone, like forget everything else. Like Rag is back. Oh my god, aggro decks have so much more reach now.
And like probably people didn't really know what they were doing, right?
Yeah.
'Cause a lot of people were bringing stuff like N'Zoth Rogue just because they could, but like N'Zoth Rogue is awful.
It was also a deck that was. I feel like there was a streamer that like made it a not necessarily like an actual good archetype, but like the idea of shuffling infinite N'Zoths and Kartet Defenders. That was also when that card just came out.
Yeah, it's like
so.
it can work out, and if you hit the right curve against the right like aggro deck that just has to smack into your taunts, yeah, it works. But good luck surviving until turn 10.
Yeah, literally. It was a pretty goofy deck, though.
Which doesn't have whatever it's called, Vanish anymore. Vanish was already gone, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like, good luck.
Yeah, they ripped that away. Control Rogue no longer is an archetype because Vanish is gone. Even though Vanish isn't really... It's an AoE that's not an AoE. It's such a frustrating card.
It's an incredibly obnoxious card.
Versatile, but yes, very obnoxious.
Yeah. Kind of like the priest one, Psychic Scream.
Yeah, definitely not.
I can see that brings up bad thoughts for you, so I apologize.
I play Mechathune decks. You do the math.
Yeah. Well, you would probably hate every deck that I've ever played in Wild, so.
Oh boy. I mean, I am usually the person that fills the role of, oh yeah, you hate to play up against me because I'm either doing something that's going to embarrass you or I'm playing an uninteractive combo deck because, I mean, this is quite literally on my desk. All 5 pieces of Exodia. Do you need any more evidence of how much I love combo decks?
Man. I was actually looking at some Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I had from when I was a kid, and like I'm certain that I did not understand how the game was played at all.
No one did.
Now I have like, that's what Pizza told me as well. I have probably like 8 to 10 Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I held on to, probably because they were the ones that I thought looked coolest.
Yeah.
And most of them aren't worth anything, but one of them's supposedly worth a couple $100. So good on me for hanging.
What is it? Actually, out of curiosity.
It's a first edition Blue Eyes White Dragon. I don't remember the set, but
probably. Oh, wait, is it It's not Star Deck Kaiba, is it? Because
I don't know offhand, but I could grab it.
Yeah, go ahead and grab it. Actually, like
yeah,
I'll probably know what the set is. Like I'll just to fill in space. Usually when it came to Blue Eyes White Dragons, if it's like the original, is it actually? I guess that's the first question I should probably ask. Is if that's the original art, then it's probably Starter Deck Kaiba. But if it's the reprint, then it's probably Legend of Blue Eyes. But they didn't really reprint it that much at the beginning.
So I've got this Blue Eyes White Dragon. I don't know what the little like set thing means. It's LOB, whatever.
That Legend of Blue Eyes. Let me see this card. Let me see this card. Dude, you have a Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon.
You have to forgive me, like the quality of this card. It's like a little beat up on the edges.
Oh no, that's
because I had it when I was a literal child.
Yeah, dude, that was the card that you wanted to pull from that. Like, okay, so Legend of Blue Eyes, obviously that was the big card that you wanted to hit. You wanted to hit the Blue Eyes White Dragons. It also had the Exodia pieces in it, and it had a lot of the classic cards that people used to play. But that's like, yeah, that's definitely a good pull. I don't even have one of those Blue Eyes White Dragons, and I have literally 11 Blue Eyes White Dragons in this damn thing, and I don't have a Legend of Blue Eyes one.
Yeah, and then I mean I have some other cards here that are like probably decent, but at one point recently I like looked them all up and saw like what the value of them was according to the internet, and I'm not expecting to sell them, or if I did, I wasn't expecting to make a fortune or anything, but it's just kind of cool to know that, like, hey, I got some stuff that's maybe neat.
Yeah, like, I will tell you right now, like, if I found that card at, like, a shop or something, I probably would buy it, because I want an original Legend of Blue Eyes. And, like, for example, these Exodia pieces that I flashed in front of you are not first edition, but they are Legend of Blue Eyes versions of the Exodia pieces. So if I were to get first edition of these, then they would, definitely be like really freaking, worth something. But like, yeah, first edition, Legend of Blue Eyes, White Dragon. That's like, that's nice card.
Yeah, and I don't really know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh, but I know that I was like a big fan of the show as a kid, so
Same.
I probably owned like a ton of the cards, and these are just, I held on to the ones like, yeah, I've got probably multiple Dark Magicians and that kind of thing.
I've actually been rewatching the sub version of Yu-Gi-Oh because I've actually never watched the Japanese version at all, and I know a lot of like the American Japanese version differences because like censorship was very big because for kids. I'm not gonna go into all of that because most people probably are aware of it. Are you aware of it?
Also,
at
like
all?
the jelly donut thing, right?
Wait, what do you mean the jelly donut thing?
There's a scene. Maybe it wasn't Yu-Gi-Oh.
Wait, are you talking about when Joey was like gigantic donut? Are you talking about that?
And it's like clearly supposed to be onigiri, but they refer to it as a jelly donut for the translation because they don't want to have to explain what it is to.
Wait,
Americans.
no, that was Pokemon. That was Pokemon. Yeah, because it was Brock.
I'm confused here, but yeah, I think that's just a funny scene. But I'm sure Yu-Gi-Oh has plenty of their own.
The biggest thing about Yu-Gi-Oh, you remember watching? Actually, which one did you watch? Did you watch the sub or the dub?
I'm sure it was the dub because it was just whatever would have been shown on TV in America when I was a kid.
So are you aware of 4Kids and what they do to shows?
Like, are they the translators who do the dubs and stuff? I mean,
yes.
I heard you talking to Rami about this a bit on the first episode. I was able to watch that one. I haven't seen you talking to Hat yet or anything, but I know that you talked to Rami about this a bit.
Yeah. I'll have to try to not repeat the same stuff that I did in that interview. But in the
no, it's fine.
In the dub though, it's 4Kids, and the big problem with 4Kids is that they censored everything. Like, are you aware of like One Piece at all?
Only vaguely.
Okay. One Piece by 4Kids is almost unwatchable because of how much censoring and how much like the story is. They literally changed the story in order to fit their censorship narrative. So, case in point, in Yu-Gi-Oh, this is like first 10 episodes, okay? Very first 10 episodes that you're seeing this kind of censorship. To where there's a scene where Kaiba is at some kind of location for Kaiba Corp, and his door gets busted down, and these two dudes are pointing guns at him, and it's like you're coming with us or we're gonna kill you type deal. And he pushes a chair, jumps out the window with his briefcase because it has his technology that they're trying to steal, and it goes from there. And in the English version, they're not holding guns; they're pointing their fingers at them. Finger guns, literally. Yes.
Nice. You know, and I probably watched that as a kid and just like had no problem with it. I was like, this is awesome.
And you probably didn't realize why he jumped out the window when people were just like, "Hey, you need to come with us here, buddy. We don't like what you're doing."
Maybe an overreaction. But,
literally.
You know, I do remember though, like not watching Naruto as a kid because I didn't like the translation of it.
Yeah, that's another one. Another example in Yu-Gi-Oh actually is the concept of the Shadow Realm. The Shadow Realm is literally
as opposed to just dying.
Yes, it literally is not a thing in the dub. I'm sorry, in the sub. The Shadow Realm does not exist. There's just shadow magic, and people are just dying left and right.
And then there's like Dragon Ball Z where they kill people off, but they're just gonna come back to life anyway.
Well, yeah, but there's a literal wish granting dragon, so they're allowed to have some kind of wiggle room.
I don't have any complaints there. If I were gonna complain about Dragon Ball Z, I would complain about how they have whole episodes that are just people standing in place getting ready to fight, but not fighting.
Yeah, literally that. Like, I will say that Dragon Ball Super, though, there's a lot of people that I feel like are just giving the show shit because it's bad animation. But it's like, dude, do you really want it to be like the same gruffled 90s animation style? Like, dude, I'm sorry, but it's more expensive to do it that way than it is what they're doing right now. Animation is expensive.
I mean, and the more you have to go in by hand and draw stuff.
Yeah, like
not that, I mean, obviously somebody had to draw it at some point, but you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Like drawing individual frames over. I've only seen a few episodes of that one though, so.
Yeah, I haven't watched too much Super. I'm pretty much limited to the YouTube clips that I watch. But I'm always a fan of just like watching like the fight scenes. Like one of my favorite anime fight is actually Gohan versus Cell. I think it's one of the best arcs in anime history. I absolutely love Cell as a villain.
You know, and I don't know enough about anime to be like, no, that one's bad. You should watch this instead, you know? But, because, like, it's stuff that I watched as a kid, and I'm just like, yeah, everything about Dragon Ball Z was awesome, but it's been a while since I've seen it. So, I don't know.
I've been trying to get into some more, some different animes, and like I would say in like the past 5 years I've given JoJo a chance. I've watched a little bit of Mob Psycho, and that's only because I watched One Punch Man. I was thoroughly impressed with it. I love One Punch Man. Oh god, were there any other new animes that I guess the big one is the fact that I gave JoJo's Bizarre Adventure a shot, and I watched all the way. I've completed part 3, part 2, and I got kind of through part 4. But kind of lost the motivation to finish it for whatever reason because I was going through some weird life changes. But I would definitely recommend it, though. I love Stardust Crusaders.
I'm really excited about a new show that was announced recently. I think it's called Yasuke. It's about like the first and only African samurai, and they've got Flying Lotus doing music for it. They got Lakeith Stanfield as the main actor. He was in Get Out, and he's in Atlanta, and he was in Sorry to Bother You, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I'm like super excited about that show because just the fact that you've got like one of my favorite actors and like an amazing like world-class musician working on it is like I'm already excited. Sign me up.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
And it's like it's one of the main like big anime studios that's making it, but they're making it for Netflix. So I think that's coming out at like the end of next month or something.
Okay, so you'll be able to binge watch the whole series then, because it's coming out all at once.
I hope. I'm not 100% sure, but since it's Netflix, I'm hoping that they'll just let me watch the whole first season or something.
Yeah. Oh my god, dude. Like, I don't really watch too much stuff on Netflix, and if you said that you haven't watched the Hat interview, but he and I talked about a few shows, but really the only show that I watch on Netflix aside from like Breaking Bad, whenever I want to like get into that every now and again, is BoJack Horseman. Absolutely, love that show.
4 seasons in. I think.
Oh, you're still watching it? In. Okay, I will do my best to make sure that I don't spoil anything.
It's a really great show. I just haven't caught up and watched the entire thing yet. But I'm the same way. I don't watch a lot of stuff on Netflix. Obviously, I just said that I had watched BoJack, but I had gotten through 4 seasons probably like whenever the 4th season was done, and so probably like 3 years ago or something. But I still mean to watch the last. I think it's 2 more seasons or however much is after that.
Okay, so you finished all of season 4?
I believe so. I know I stopped at the end of a season, but let me just like quickly check to see that was where I.
Yeah, because there are 6 total seasons, and the 6th season is actually like the equivalent of like 1.5 seasons because all the every single season's 12 episodes, and they went 18 episodes in order to really go into detail and finishing off the story. But something I always talk about whenever I'm talking about BoJack is just like how well written the show is in every single regard of the statement. It is literally the best show, the best writing, the best jokes, best animation. Like it is just the best in every single category.
That's one of those that'll make you laugh, but at the same time it can be super depressing.
Make you laugh, make you cry, and everything else in between. Because
Yeah.
like it's almost
That's a great show though.
it's almost impossible to watch that show and not relate to it in some way or another. And I really believe like if they didn't go, if the setting wasn't in Hollywood, for example, if it wasn't in Hollywood, I don't believe it would hit nearly as hard. Because everybody loves Hollywood. Everybody loves the idea of, oh my God, there's this place in the world that literally makes like whatever percent of the entertainment in the world. It must literally be like a heaven. No, it is not. No, it is not. It is not the bells and whistles that you think it is in terms of, oh yeah, everyone's happy, everyone's having a good time because they're famous. That's not at all how it works.
No, and I think that's come to light even more and more. It's like so much scandals and stuff that have sort of come out. There's like, oh yeah, there's really people getting taken advantage of and all sorts of shit. And it's kind of interesting to take those themes to a TV show that's like an animated show, and it's like an animated comedy, but they're talking about things like abortions on that show. It's like it's not what you usually see.
Exactly.
I think it's a really interesting way to sort of touch on delicate and tough topics and sort of have a laugh at the same time while sort of like beneath the surface presenting like some really serious things.
Literally, okay, so you just said the topic of abortions. The episode that you're probably referring to is the episode called Brat Brat Pew Pew, correct? The one where...
No, probably.
Okay, so let me know. Okay, hold on. I don't want to like ruin this episode for you. Brat Brat Pew Pew. Let me just make sure which season this is. So this was season 3. Okay,
so I think so. Now that I've looked, I'm pretty sure that I finished season 3, and I'm not sure if I started season 4.
Okay, so season 3 is the season where Miss Princess Carolyn.
Season 3 though.
Yeah, she's making her own agency, and she's trying to she just got rid of the rabbit guy because he's a piece of shit, and she makes her own company and brings Diane along as a social media consultant. And in this particular episode, BoJack is taunting Diane as he usually does in typical BoJack form, and I always have to shout out Will Arnett because good lord, he's one of the best voice actors of all time, and I can't unhear BoJack whenever he talks. You really have to have a special talent in order to have that kind of association with the character. But regardless, BoJack's taunting Diane and ends up saying the wrong thing about the situation about something crawling up in her butt and dying in her butt, and he's like, "I'm getting an abortion," and she ends up tweeting that on accident for a pop star to a Twitter account that has like millions of followers. Yeah. So it immediately gets on the news. And literally, okay, so like that entire, I forget why I brought it up, but oh yeah, okay, so like literally you had said you have to like sometimes laugh with something that's like very painful to experience for the first time, right?
Yeah.
So in that episode, there's literally the line where Diane she's about to get the abortion done, she's signing the paperwork and all of that, and there's literally like a teenager that's sitting next to her, saying, oh, you work with Sextina? I absolutely love her. And Diane's talking about how, oh my god, like, I don't know how much I like Sextina doing all of this. And the kid essentially says that, you don't actually believe she wants to do that, do you? Like, just doing this process is scary, especially with everything of all the pressures that are going on, about the people that are protesting. And when you have something like this to point and laugh at, it makes it easier to go forth with it. So quite literally, what you just explained was the major theme of that exact episode.
Well, there you go.
So if that isn't good writing, I don't know what is. Because like they tie everything together so well done, like so amazingly well done, and they give it to you in a real sense, not bullshitted sense, and they leave you with those questions that they themselves don't know the answers to. That is a definitely good storyteller.
I've just to like some of the other things I've been watching. So I did go back and watch all of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Never watched it as a kid. People always told me how good it was, and I know Rami's a huge fan, so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch this show. Ended up loving that too. And then I've also been watching some movies lately that I hadn't seen until now, but felt like that I needed to. So watched The Shining, watched Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, that's a good movie.
Jojo Rabbit, all great movies. So definitely happy to have caught up on some of those things. But then I'm always like, I don't really feel like watching a movie or another show, and then I'll go and watch it. I'm like, that's great. I should do that more often.
I feel that, man. Like, a lot of the times when I'm watching movies, like, it's something that I'm listening to in the background. Like, I really can't remember the last time, aside from, like, maybe, like, Endgame. Like, Endgame was, like, probably, like, the last, like, new movie that I sat down and watched, like, beginning to end. And it's just, like, it's hard to find the time to sit down for 2.5 hours if that's the kind of movies that you're into. And it's also just, like, one of those things to where it's hard to discover new movies, I feel like, because there's a lot of like things to where like, oh my god, you haven't seen this movie, oh, you need to watch this movie. Like, you gotta watch what movies you talk about the right people, because like it goes down that rabbit hole. Like, I've got a lot of cinematic a lot of filmmaker friends, and whenever they hear someone say, oh yeah, Quentin Tarantino is my favorite director, they just go, eh. Like,
yeah,
it's still good movies though. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
You gotta admit that.
Yeah, you, like, enjoy yourself a little bit, right? But there's so many things that like I haven't seen that I probably would enjoy, and that are like in the back of my mind of like, oh, I should get around to watching Spirited Away. But then
I almost did it. I almost did exactly what I hate. I almost did it.
You haven't seen Spirited Away?
That was literally the movie that introduced me to anime. So that's why I almost said that, because like,
no, I mean to watch it, but
it is such a beautiful movie. Beautiful movie. I was not ready for the themes when I was a kid, but it is a beautiful movie.
Sure. I do think, though, that when people give you recommendations for different kinds of media, there's like the more of your time that they're recommending you take up, the more rude it feels to me. Like, if somebody tells me to check out a song or band, I'm like, sure, and I'll probably do it. If somebody recommends me a movie, then I say sure, and then I probably don't do it.
Yeah.
And then if they recommend me a TV show, I'm like, no.
Just straight
You're
up
recommending
no.
that I take up like 40 hours of my life on something.
Maybe that explains why my brother won't get into Breaking Bad. And it actually, I take that back, because literally, okay, so back to what you were saying. Like, you can't tell people, oh my god, you've never seen this, because then they'll double down on the idea and then they won't do it. And like,
Exactly.
My brother decided not to watch Breaking Bad because I told him how good it was, and like, I broke down after years of people telling me to watch the show, and I finally gave it a chance, and I'm glad that I did. One of the best TV shows I've ever seen, especially in modern years. But like, my brother literally decided to watch the Hannibal, a series on Netflix, despite me, because he was like, I'm not watching Breaking Bad. I want to watch something that actually interests me. And I was like, yeah. I promise you'll like it if you give it a chance. It's like crystal meth. If you try it once, you won't go back. Like,
wow. Yeah, that's probably true.
Very, very accurate
that's
for Breaking
Bad.
Bad.
Try meth, right?
Yeah. Don't do meth, guys.
No, we're anti-meth here. I'm anti-meth, at least.
Anti-meth.
There's. Sorry. I do think that like most of the shows that I've watched all the way through have been comedies, though. Like,
I agree.
Watched all of Parks and Rec. I watched all of The Good Place and like different comedy shows. There's not really been anything that comes to mind that's been like a drama TV show that I watched and stuck it out with.
Most people would probably say like The Wire or House of Cards or something, to be honest. Like, unless you're like watching like cable TV and you're just like stuck to watching nothing but NCIS and freaking not Criminal Minds, Law and Order. Because that's what my mom does. She watches a bunch of crime dramas.
It is not my thing, but there's a lot of that for the people who like it. So
I am not a fan of crime dramas, but I will say that Criminal Minds specifically is a show that I can get into, because they actually like, this is the kind of stuff that you would want a TV show made out of. It's like serial killers. It's like really weird homicides. That's the kind of stuff that I could understand like making a show about, because it's like very, very out there, versus just like, ooh, I'm a cop in New York and this is what my life is like. Like,
Right.
Like it actually goes into I mean, every single cop show goes into like the psychology of being, you know, a cop and stuff like that. But like they actually use like criminal profiling in order to find some of these victims and whatnot. And like obviously it's not 100% accurate, but it goes in a different way with like a psychological approach. And the characters I feel like are actually just very, very well done. Like there's one season where I'm just gonna go ahead and ruin one of it to you because you're probably not gonna watch it.
It's fine. I'm not.
One of the main characters, Hotch, actually, there's a serial killer called the Reaper, who's like the main bad guy of this entire season. Even though they're solving other crimes, like this guy's in the back of his mind, and his crimes come up like a couple times during the season. Spoiler alert, and just jumping all the way through to what happens at the end. The Reaper kills Hotch's wife on the phone with him as he does it. And he's like, I want you to promise to your wife that everything's going to be okay. Like, this is like, it's like super fucked up. I'm not going to lie. It's super fucked up. It's really captivating. It's good television. And then at the end of the season, or the end of that episode, Hotch finds him and literally beats him to death.
Okay.
Doesn't take him in. The guys have to get him off. And it's like, it's so good. It was before they like always did everything cliche with like a lot of the cop dramas and stuff like that. And I watched the whole season because I wanted to figure out, is he gonna catch this bastard? And like the Reaper was such a good villain. He was a villain you wanted to root for. He was so smart. He was so cunning. He literally stabbed himself 16 times in order to get people off of his trail. That is a villain I want to root for.
Damn.
Interesting though, right?
Yeah.
You weren't expecting that because it's like the typical cop dramas.
The one show that I've watched that was kind of like that is actually a Korean show. I think the English title is something like Strong Girl Bong Soon or something. And it's like a comedy and sort of like a love story sort of thing that's like pretty cheesy, but the running like backstory is this criminal guy who's like honestly like way more fucked up than I had expected it to be. and like the crime parts of it, he's like kidnapping and torturing people, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, why is this in this kind of show? Like, you'd never have a show like that in America where it's like, oh yeah, I watch it for the heartthrob, and also this guy is fucking evil. Like, to have both of those in the same show.
I feel like,
and I won't claim that it's like an amazing TV show or anything, but it's like very bizarre.
Do you ever root for the villains in media? Because like I always find myself rooting for like the really messed up villains. I don't know why. Like I was one of those people rooting for Thanos damn near. Like I was damn near rooting for Thanos.
I would say not usually. I will say I think that Ferris Bueller is the worst cinematic character of all time.
Whoa.
I think that like if somebody just like shot him in the face in that movie, like I would have been really happy. but I'm just very strongly anti Ferris Bueller. But other than that,
okay,
you know, I think I mostly root for the main character.
I definitely agree that Ferris Bueller's Day Off is Matthew Broderick's. He is a little shit, and like the whole thing about that movie is that it's completely overhyped. It is completely overhyped. Is it Matthew Broderick's best movie ever? B movie exists, so let's really ask the questions here. No, I'm kidding.
B movie is essential.
we could actually have an entire episode talking about the intricacies of B movie.
Isn't there like a podcast where the guys just watch B movie every day or something?
Wait, what?
Yeah, I think there's a podcast where the guys watch B movie every single day, but I might be confused. It's something like that though.
I recently rewatched B movie, and I actually recently rewatched Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So like in like the past like 2 months actually. So this is like fresh in my head. So to end the Ferris Bueller's Day Off thing before we get into B movie, because that's a whole other can of worms.
Sure.
So like the thing about Ferris Bueller's Day Off is that I like the idea of the movie, especially like given that time. It's like, yeah, playing hooky. This is how you do it. All right, let's figure out what's gonna happen on this playing hooky day. It's interesting in that approach. But yeah, he literally manipulates his friend into helping him steal his dad's car. lies to the school about an old lady dying so someone can get out of school, as if no ramifications are going to be coming after that. Pardon my French, but you're an asshole. That entire scene where he has his friend like pretending to be like, everything that Ferris Bueller was doing was damn near manipulation in that movie.
Right, and it's just all at the expense of other people. Like, he's just, if nothing else, he's just a bad friend the whole movie.
Exactly.
It's like really hard for me to root.
And then at the end of the movie, when the car is drone off the edge of a cliff, one of the most beautiful cars in cinematic history, what happens?
Right?
That when he finally takes it fucking responsibility, his friend's like, "No, I got it. I'm gonna do this for me." Like, are you? That's the worst time to have that kind of change in character. Your dad is going to kill you. Let him kill Ferris.
Ferris Bueller's never gonna learn anything. He's just letting him get away with it.
And his parents are actually stupid. Like, the scene where his mom literally, like, checks in on him, and then, like, okay, she goes in, oh, okay, and then, like, oh, wait a minute, is this actually what's going on? And then, like, you know, something recording plays, and she's completely goofed. They're like, no parent's actually that stupid.
I'm fooled. You got me.
I literally had to fool my mom by warming up water in a hot pan, putting a thermometer, dipping it for a second. Wait, okay, that's too hot. Nope, let's try that again. Okay, here we go. Mom, 101. Can I not go to school? That's literally what I did as a kid. If I were to just be like, I don't feel good. I mean, this was also the 80s. This is also the 80s, so it was probably easier to get away with things. But
just in general. Yeah,
good
maybe.
Lord. So that's the rant about Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yes.
Because I agree with you. He is a little shit. And
good. I'm glad that you didn't just like double down on defending. Although that would have been a fun conversation too, actually.
Yeah.
But
oh my God. But B movie. So when was the last time that you saw this movie?
You know, it's probably been a while. It's probably been.
Because I'm just gonna pull up
8 years or something.
I'm gonna pull up the cast of B movie. Okay.
I think I have a good understanding of the B movie though, because there's so many memes about it that I've probably seen a good deal of those, like B movie, but every time they say B, it gets faster or something like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of different memes like that. Like I've seen this movie was completely memed out. Like I think in like 2015 or something like that. But like the cast of this movie is utterly bonkers good. Like, first off, Jerry Seinfeld is, obviously the producer. You have Patrick Warburton. You have Renee Zellweger. You have John Goodman, Matthew Broderick, Chris Rock, Larry King cameoing as a version of B. Larry King.
Well, of course.
Ray Liotta playing himself, because apparently, actual fact, Ray Liotta actually has bee farms and is invested in the honey market. That is something that a lot of people don't realize. And in case you don't know who Ray Liotta is, have you seen the movie Goodfellas?
I have not seen it. I am aware of the movie Goodfellas.
100% would recommend that movie. It's one of the best movies I'd recommend. But clearly you're probably not going to watch it because I just asked you to commit 2.5 hours of your time.
I might watch it, but if I do, it'll probably be like on a whim 3 years from now, and I'm just gonna be honest about that.
No, that's fine. Like I said, one of the best movies that in my opinion. But it's a movie about gangsters, and he plays the main character in that. He plays Henry. In case whoever's listening has seen Goodfellas, 100% love that movie.
And I mean, I love The Godfather, so I'm into these sort of like gangster film or mafia kind of.
You'll 100% love it then. It's also got Robert Downey Jr. Robert De Niro is in it. It's got Kathy. Okay, so going back to B movie, it's got Kathy Bates, Simon J. Smith, Oprah Winfrey. Oprah is actually in this. She plays the judge. Sting from the Police plays himself.
Yeah, I saw that, and for a second I was like, why was Sting in this movie? And then I figured, okay, they just contacted him for the pun, I'm sure.
Literally. And
I don't remember the scene that he was in, but I'm sure they got him exclusively for the pun.
He was in the court scene where he's being cross-examined by Barry. But like the cast of this movie is utterly ridiculous, and there's also one more person that's not listed on here that's very, very well known. Oh god, I forget his name, but he's the voice of Pete. Hold on a second. He's the narrator. There we go, Jim Cummings. He is a legendary voice actor. Like I said, the voice of Pete in Disney. He does the narrator at the very, very beginning of the movie. But, like, I'm pretty sure that just Jerry Seinfeld literally called up all of his friends. He's like, yo, I got an amazing idea for a movie. I need you for, like, a 5-minute cameo max. I promise.
You know, but the budget for this movie is $150 million. And the box office was $300 million. So
Whoa.
it's like it's a big meme, but at the same time it's also like expensive and a huge success.
I mean, animation was pretty expensive back in like 2007, and this was also like this is DreamWorks as well, so they don't have access to like to Pixar like animations and all of that kind of stuff, because Pixar was just they still are the king. Like let's not toot the wrong horns here.
DreamWorks made like Shrek, right? They're no slouches in terms of making some of the most successful 3D animated movies of all time.
Yeah, I will definitely give them credit where credit is due, but it's just like one of those things to where like you're always gonna be in the shadow of like Disney, Pixar kind of deal. Like that's just kind of like the deal of like any movie companies that want to emerge, is that you have to be able to deal with Disney. You have to compete with them. That's hard to do.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's been some good animated movies from other studios, though. I'm trying to remember what was what studio, so it's like very difficult to keep track of.
Yeah, every single time I think of animation, it's like, is it DreamWorks or is it Pixar? And like sometimes,
yeah, I mean, Pixar's got so many like classics and just hits, you know. I love Up. I love WALL-E. Like Finding Nemo's great. They just got so much stuff that's fantastic.
You know, one movie that I actually loved. A lot of people did kind of talk about this. I was about to say it's underrated, but it's really not. Inside and Out, actually, love that movie.
Inside Out, I didn't see it in theaters, but like I was able to watch it on whatever streaming service it was on at the time, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I think there needs to be like more movies that take that kind of approach, to where it has like, to where like I wouldn't necessarily say that like you're just animating like random things, but like you have an overall message with these kind of characters. They're not just like, oh yeah, this is a, oh god, like I'm just like this is a toy or whatever. I don't know. I'm actually not explaining this very well, but like literally, so like you have the main character, and then you have things inside the main character that describes literally how she behaves. I think we would love. I personally would love more like introspective movies like that, to where it's one main character split up in a lot of different ways, so you can understand what exactly is going on. Because they use a very, very easy narrative of parents moving and the stresses of moving to a new location, because everybody can relate to that. Everybody can 100% relate to that. And you need basic themes done really well if you're going to do those kind of themes.
Yeah, and everything Pixar does, it's like you gotta get this across to children, but at the same time make it entertaining for everybody to watch.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what they do so well, is that there's a lot to it, but at the same time, it's like it's colorful and it's just fun to watch, you know?
Yeah, you have these bright, colorful cartoon characters.
You ever see Coco?
No, but I get the gist of the movie. I have a little sister. She's like 7 years old. She's okay. She's a little she's a little blonde girl. Okay, she loves Disney and she loves Frozen and she loves Coco. Like anything that has come out recently, Disney she's been all over it. So I by proxy
Coco
have kind of figured that out.
It's just a phenomenal movie though. Like they do such a good job telling the story and like working in themes of like Dia de los Muertos and Mexican culture, and it's just like the way they tell that story in the animated, it's all so beautiful, and I just love that movie.
Yeah, I didn't watch most of it, but something I actually liked the most about it was okay, something that kind of weirded me out before I say this is that the dead can die That's terrifying. How are you gonna lay that on a child?
Just don't think about it too much.
Just don't. Literally, you're telling me that when I die, if someone stops remembering me, I go to super afterlife, or like I'm actually dead now. I don't 100% remember how that worked, but that was terrifying to see.
You vanish or whatever. You know, just don't think about it too hard.
Just look at all the crazy, colorful cartoon characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dude, I recently watched oh god, what's that movie where it's Pixar or Disney? It's Tom Holland and Chris Pratt. They're in a fantasy world where it's like D&D, but they're modernized.
Oh gosh,
I literally can't remember the name of this movie.
I'm not sure.
Oh god, I'm actually gonna have to look this up real quick. Hold on a minute. If I look up Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, I'll probably end up finding it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, well, okay, Avengers. Okay, yeah, totally, yeah, Avengers. Well, thank you. That's exactly.
I could have come up with that one. Right?
Okay, Onward. That's the name of the movie.
Onward. Yeah, I remember hearing about that one. I didn't see it though.
Okay. This movie kind of hit me a little bit personally. Not to get like too personal and stuff like that, but it touches up on dead parents, and my father passed away when I was 17. Oh my god! This movie made me cry like a little baby. It literally, okay, so I'm gonna try and not tear up while I talk about this because I can't fucking help it. Because literally, what do you expect? But there's a part in the movie where I fucking can't do it. I literally can't fucking do it. The ending of the ending of the movie is so fucking worth it, and it'll pull at your fucking heartstrings, dude. I'm literally tearing up thinking about it now. I'm a little wuss when it comes to cinematics. Just by the way, I will cry harder than my girlfriend. I will get her in here to confirm this.
No, me too. Actually, I'm really susceptible to that. I cry at movies and TV shows.
But yeah, I mean, I just think that it just shows how human you are. Like, I love the idea. Like, I really I love the idea of being so invested in movies to the point where it's like you literally connect with the characters, because it's actually how you can learn lessons. Like, this is gonna be a complete 180, but going back to Breaking Bad, for example, like, I have learned that if I ever have somebody that I love very much, and she's tempting me to, use my money to, like, tempt me for like heroin and stuff like that. It's like, oh, don't worry, I'll join you type shit. It's like, no, get away from me. I'm not gonna do this. Like, that's a very basic example, but like, cinema really does give people the chance to be able to experience not only other people's perspectives, but other people's mistakes, other people's losses, other people's literal downfall of their character. Like, I just really believe that cinema has a lot to offer people, and especially if you come from, like, not the greatest of families. This is kind of something that BoJack actually touches up on, is that you can use cinema in order to kind of guide yourself down the way so you're not, making the same mistakes as, like, your parents and stuff like that.
It's a lot of lessons, and I mean, it's the same with, like, reading novels and stuff too.
Yeah.
There's stuff that I avoid, though, because I know that they're gonna hit on some sort of topic, and whether it's just like the cognitive dissonance in my mind or whatever, that I'm just like, I don't even want to think about some things. You can sort of fill in the blanks for, like, whatever, like, serious topic it is for you, but there's some things where I'm just like, I know if a movie deals with this, maybe it's good, but I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy it. An example is the movie Whiplash. I saw the movie Whiplash,
God.
but it was like a painful experience for me to watch it. And I can admit that it's like a good, well-made movie, but it was just
it's so exaggerated.
It's just like a bad experience for me watching that movie.
Okay, so everyone knows that I'm a drummer, obviously. As someone who never watched Whiplash, but had a bunch of people around him watch a bunch of movies, if I have to hear one more person that's close to me say, "Oh my God, Whiplash would be the perfect movie for you. It's about drummers."
I would actually recommend the movie to non-drummers more than people who are
exactly.
drummers.
But like that was the thing that drove me crazy though, is that they were literally just recommending it to me because it's like, oh, like the dude hits drum, you hit drum, you should watch it.
But like I've had too many experiences with like directors that treat people like shit and stuff like that. That it's like it's kind of too personal in that way. I mean, it's not the most like it's not like the most horrible thing in the world, but it's still just like watching that. There's that sort of, I just get anxiety from that.
Exactly. I mean, I like the idea
real.
that they're trying to portray, because like they're essentially trying to say, it's like, hey, you want to make your dreams come true? Okay, are you willing to do steps A through literally triple Z in order to achieve them? Because if you aren't, then do you really want it? And that's like a question that some people
one of those movies where you hate everyone.
Oh, really? I like I said, I haven't seen the movie, so like,
There's no character that you're supposed to like by the end. At least that's how I view it.
Wow, not even the guy that's literally going through all this hell.
No, he's awful.
Wow. Okay. Jeez.
Or well, maybe awful's extreme, but like I definitely don't like him. but anyway, that's just the kind of thing that anything that I know is gonna give me serious anxiety, I try to avoid. But
yeah, because like I like the idea of like kind of like what we were talking about with like BoJack earlier. I like the idea of like, being poised questions that you wouldn't normally ask yourself, but every now and again you don't want to ask yourself these kind of questions. Sometimes you just want to watch something that's a little bit like feel good, like Archer, for example. Archer, I think, is a perfect show whenever I'm just like, I'm not really paying attention to it, and I love John Benjamin as a voice actor. Literally gives me motivation to want to learn more voice acting. And if I'm gonna be honest,
like Home Movies, man.
Since what?
Home Movies. He played Coach McGurk in Home Movies.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that actually. I'm really only familiar with him with his animations.
Cartoon.
Oh, it's a cartoon?
It's an animation. Yeah. Cartoon from like Adult Swim back in the day.
Ah, okay. Adult Swim's had so many off and on TV shows. It's hard to keep track. And like I mean,
it probably only had a couple seasons.
Yeah, I used to try and keep up with that to the best of my ability when I had cable, but I don't have cable anymore because who really owns cable nowadays? Let's be honest. You have 3 different streaming platforms, and you probably only really use 2 of them.
You know the show? I'm gonna go off on a different tangent. You know the show China, Illinois? Have you heard of that show?
China, Illinois?
It's an animated show that had like 2 seasons on Adult Swim, but they got Hulk Hogan as one of the main voice actors for an animated show. It's like, what a strange thing, right? But it's fantastic.
Okay, I was about to say, like, is there a reason that they brought on Hulk Hogan, or were they just nah, this guy can voice act. I can vouch for him, man.
Well, he plays like the dean of the university, and he's like a super like macho dude. He's kind of like playing it as Hulk Hogan. It's really funny.
Okay, I like doing stuff like
about
that.
The worst university in America. It's kind of. I actually have a big like flag. Hold on, I'll show it just because I can.
Yeah. Hulk Hogan, though, that's not really someone that you see every day doing voice acting. That's for damn sure.
Anyway, so just a show that I really like.
Yeah, nice. Like, so you said this was set in China? Like, is that why the panda's there?
No, China, Illinois.
China, Illinois. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it's supposed to like be a misdirect then. Kind of like
It's just a silly name. So 3 seasons, it had 30 episodes. Like, it's just one of those shows that didn't run for that long, but it's just like hilarious to me if you're that kind of
well, go through
like that sort of comedy.
Go through one of the episodes. Like, what exactly does it touch up on?
Okay, so it revolves around the university. One of the episodes that's my favorite, the professor has like this crazy night out drinking and taking drugs and shit, and then he comes in the next day to do his lecture, and he gives the perfect lecture, and at the end of it he like, he's like ascending and glowing. It's like he's like achieved enlightenment. So in order to continue that and have the best lecture every single time, he gets in the habit of like every day he goes out and binges and goes through this like whole crazy ritual. And over time, the students like they realize like he's doing the same exact lecture every day. So that's like the kind of thing. Another episode is all about how the Beach Boys are actually serial killers, and they've got these songs throughout the show that sound just like Beach Boys songs, but they're like completely fake Beach Boys songs that are written to have like lyrics about killing people and stuff. It's so funny.
I don't know why, but that kind of reminded me of Clone High. Have you heard of that show?
No.
Okay, so so the reason why it's called Clone High is because it's a high school full of clones of famous people. So like the main characters are there's a clone of Abraham Lincoln, Mahatma Gandhi, and Saint Joan of Arc. They all go to a high school, and they go with people like John F. Kennedy is the popular kid, Cleopatra is the popular dumb girl. They make a whole bunch of references. Vincent Van Gogh is in it for a second. But essentially, it's a show that was made by MTV back when they did those kind of shows. But like the person that was responsible for this show actually was the person behind Total Drama Island. If you remember that show from Cartoon Network, it's the same creators, so it's around the same kind of like same kind of comedy. But like just case in point, just to give you an idea of what the show's about, the very first episode is Abe trying to get alcohol for a party that Cleopatra is throwing because he's got a big crush on Cleopatra, and he essentially promises that he can do what he can. He tries to sneak alcohol, doesn't end up working. And at the party, he ends up saying he gets booze, but it's non-alcoholic, and nobody can tell the difference because they're all in high school and they're just happy to be woo drinking, that kind of thing. Yeah, right. But one of the funniest jokes in that entire episode, it has nothing to do with the actual plot. But John F. Kennedy is the comic relief. He personally hates finger guns for the obvious reasons. And he's just a complete Chad. He's a complete Chad. So like the line that I absolutely love is oh god, I forget how exactly it goes, but it's something along the lines of, "Will you have sex with me?" And the girl just hits him, obviously saying no, and then he gets up and just says, "Answer the question." And it's just like, I absolutely love that kind of comedy where it's just like it's misdirections. And like it's just good. It's good humor. It's like it's kind of hard to find shows that push the envelope anymore in terms of like humor and stuff like that. But like that show really didn't push the envelope, so I'm glad that like that nobody like is looking too deep into like some of those jokes and whatnot. But it's a really good show. MTV animation, so you know it's freaking weird. Best part about it actually is that every single episode is like 15 minutes. So like if you want something that's like a quick watch and it's like a classic cartoon that you would put on when you were like a teenager or something, good watch.
I think a lot of those like cartoons have shorter episodes, like 15-minute episodes.
Usually to fit in like a half hour time slot and stuff like that.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll air them back to back. I'll tell you though, I watch like such a ridiculous amount of Twitch and YouTube that I don't end up watching much TV for that reason. I'm kind of like one of those people who always has some sort of video or something running on my second monitor over here.
I feel that. I'm very much the same. Like what are some channels that you end up watching? Because like I usually will just like have okay, let's just read off our recommendations. How about that? So we can understand what we've been watching recently.
Okay, I can read off my recommendations. The first thing is Your Podcast with Hat.
Yo, let's go! I've infiltrated the algorithm. Let's go!
The second thing is Northern Lion playing GeoGuessr. Then it's a cooking recipe for fried bananas. the final of the Hearthstone Masters Tour. There's a chess video from Daniel Naroditsky, more Northern Lion videos from his stream. Various here's a video of like people reacting to Hollywood stunts. I like that kind of thing. I find it interesting. So a big sort of variety. I watch music videos as well.
So mine,
different sorts of things.
Mine has the Chilled Cow Lo-Fi station, because I listen to it.
Sure.
I put that on whenever I leave the house and I need something from my dog. I've got the Hearthstone Masters Tour final, like you said as well. Morty kills Rick and Morty, the scene where it's the oh god, it's story, like a story lord, and they're going in between different cannons or whatever. There's the Bill Burr can't speak right now. The Bill Burr podcast, where it's just a clip of that, a clip from Avengers Endgame. I've been watching a lot of those just because I love all the Marvel movies. Synthwave Radio, a Dragon Ball Z clip, a Family Guy clip, iDubbbz doing a Kickstarter crap on a Breaking Bad thing, and that's probably because it's iDubbbz and Breaking Bad YouTube really trying to hit me there. Cyanide and Happiness shorts. I absolutely love animators on YouTube. That is a big thing. I love animators, and I also love abridged series. Anime abridged series got me into YouTube. And literally earlier today, I was watching Little Karibo stream. I am still connected with these content creators. I absolutely love them. If you you've watched Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Yeah, you would love Yu-Gi-Oh! The abridged series then. It starts off a little slow at the beginning, like if you decide to pull it from like episode 1, because it was literally like something that this guy was doing back in like 2006 with limited audio equipment. But the more recent episodes, he's currently doing episodes on season 4 with the Celebor Calcos. He recently finished that arc, so he's actually getting into the season 5. He literally just posted the first episode on that not too long ago, actually. But very good quality YouTube content. He was also the very first person to do a bridge series, and therefore motivated a bunch of other people to do it. And you probably heard of Team 4-Star, correct?
I don't think I have, personally.
They do Dragon Ball Z abridged, but they also have a lot of other projects that they engage with. And like, if you ever go to like cons or something like that, any kind of anime conventions, they are going to be there 100%. But yeah, if you enjoy fan-made content, and if you enjoy those kind of animes, you will 100% love those abridged series, because they're essentially fans just retelling the stories in their own different ways with like with their own little references and stuff like that. And I love references. That's a personal weakness of mine. That's probably the reason why I love abridged series so much.
Yeah. You know what? I also get a lot of videos that are in Korean and a lot of videos that are in Chinese. Was really into trying to learn Korean for a while, just as a hobby, trying to learn a second language. It's impossible.
Well, Korean in general, or learning a second language?
Sorry, what was that?
Learning Korean specifically, or another language in general?
Learning Korean, I learned a lot, don't get me wrong, but it's like, I find that probably learning a second language, if it was any language, it probably would feel impossible to me, but it's sort of like
relate.
You make a bunch of progress. It's like I make so much progress, and the farther I go, the more I realize how little I know. So I'm at the point where I can maybe read, if like an artist I like posts something on Instagram and they have a caption in Korean, I can probably tell what they're talking about. But if I'm like listening to them talk on a video, I'd just be like, it would all go over my head.
I definitely relate to that, because like I say this all the time on stream, because I get rated by someone called Nosferatu in the Hearthstone scene. He gets featured on Trollden all the time, which is how I actually got turned on to his channel. But because of his raids, I've actually maintained a little bit of a Russian following, and I always have to tell them, it's like, dude, I am so bad at trying to learn other languages, because like I will try to like say the Russian phrases that they're typing in chat, and I have one person that's actually he speaks English and speaks Russian, so if I ever need anything translated, he kind of helps me out in that department. Shout out to Baron, if you're watching this, Baron. I love you, my guy. But yeah, like I would love to learn a second language, but like it's just it's so difficult. I tried to learn Spanish throughout my entire grade school career, and I had nothing but terrible teachers. I had one good teacher, but she wasn't even my main teacher. She was the Spanish instructor who came by once every 2 weeks when I went to public school. So yeah, I definitely didn't learn shit from that. And
my Spanish is not the worst thing ever, but I'm far from fluent.
Exactly, and it's like what you just said. It's like if somebody were to be talking to me, I would nothing. I would retain nothing. But if it's in front of me and I can see it, I can kind of get the idea of what's being translated.
And I think I can actually pick up a decent amount of Spanish if the person talking is from Mexico. But like the different ways that people speak Spanish in Mexico versus South America versus Spain, like it sounds very different. And I am not great at Spanish, and I'm used to hearing it one specific way.
Yep.
That I can maybe pick up on it some of the time, and then other times be like completely lost. But you know, I took Spanish classes in high school and like one in college, so I know some things. But
if you could learn any language, what would it be? Like just immediately you wake up the next day fluent in it.
It's a tough question.
I can already tell you mine. I want to learn French.
I will say that the reason I started learning Korean, basically, I was bored and I was like, I want to learn a language. And a friend of mine who was going to be going to Korea for his brother's wedding was like, hey, you should learn Korean. So it wasn't like I was like overly in Korean in particular. But the more I did start to learn it, I found it really interesting. So I would like to be fluent in Korean because I've sort of gotten interested in that language and the culture, the Korean culture. But if not that, then probably Mandarin Chinese.
Ooh, why Mandarin Chinese? Because of your experiences in China, or is there another reason why?
Yeah, I've been to China once. I thought it was a really beautiful place. I'd like to go again sometime. I mean, some of my problems with their government aside, I think that it's a very beautiful country with a lot of really great people. I met a lot of people there who were super awesome, super friendly, and I'd like to go back sometime and not be a completely clueless American and only be like a somewhat clueless American.
Literally how I feel about Montreal. Like, I've only been out of the country, well, I guess 3 times because I've been to Canada twice, but I've been to Canada twice and I've been to Mexico once. And pretty much what you said, like when I went to Montreal, I felt just like the stupid American visiting and stuff like that. Like I had a friend of mine who's 100%, okay, not 100% fluent, but very fluent in French. Send me a few phrases that I could, you know, if I need to like ask the bathroom or ask what time it was or whatever. Parlez-vous? Wait, no, fuck, that's Parlez-vous anglais? Do you speak English? I don't even remember the other one. But regardless, I would love to learn French just because I feel like I can, in the esports world, especially like Hearthstone and whatnot, it's like, you know, something that's like, everyone who's good at Hearthstone is apparently French speaking for some freaking reason. Let's not go into the
There's a lot of French speakers in the community for sure.
Yeah. But like I would just love to be able to learn French just because it can kind of translate somewhat into other languages because it's a romantic language, kind of like it shares a lot of like a lot of traits with other languages. I would say that like if I didn't want to learn French, I probably would want to learn Italian just because my grandma's side is 100% Italian.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think you sort of hit on the reason why Spanish to me was a lot easier to learn than what I have learned of Korean, and I'm probably kind of equal on those 2 languages actually, but like Spanish, at least if I don't know the word, a lot of the time I can tell what it means based on etymology. Like a lot of Spanish words share a root with English words and are very similar. Whereas Korean, you sort of get words that are just English words in a Korean accent. That's pretty common. But other than that, if it's not that, then it's like you would not know. You'd have to have memorized the word.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be like there's no common root at all unless it's like the very rare word where the English word is based on the Chinese word and the Korean word is also based on the Chinese word. But like that kind of thing is not very common.
Yeah.
So for the most part, it's like every single bit of vocab you would have to like hammer into your brain. Whereas I feel like learning Spanish or French or Italian, a lot of Latin roots are there, in some cases Greek roots, so you might be able to just pick up a decent amount of the vocabulary pretty easily. So there's an advantage, I suppose.
Yeah. Like,
probably Portuguese as well.
I have to say, though, the fact that I can't learn a language very well does kind of reinforce the oh my god dumb American thing, because like I hate the fact that I can only I know, like literally, like I was not taught at a young age, and that is when you need to teach kids how to speak languages, because it's literally when their brain is developing the best. It's when it takes in languages the absolute best, and that's why you need to teach kids at a young age a second language. You have to, otherwise they're not going to pick up on it.
There's so many Europeans who are just like super fluent in multiple languages, and I'm so envious. Like
most of them have to learn them though. They have to, otherwise they won't be able to survive. I
still watch Sunglitter's stream just like in awe of how good her English is, but like that's just me as an American being biased, because like of course she's good at English because people in Germany learn English.
Yeah.
And it's like, but to me as American, it's like if I attempted to speak German, I wouldn't get anywhere, but she's like completely fluent. So I'm just so in awe of people who can fluently speak multiple languages like that, you know?
Especially like on stream, like going back to Nosferatu, like he will speak English a little bit whenever I'm in chat, obviously just to be like, yo, what's up, mate? That kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, dude, like especially like in the Twitch world, like you kind of have to. I feel like you kind of have to speak English to a degree. Like it's just gonna expand on your audience so much vastly. I mean, so much larger.
You ever watch Hachubi at all?
Who?
Hachubi. She's a Korean streamer, one of the biggest streamers on Twitch. But you know, she started like really, really horrible at English, and like you know, people would just go to the stream to sort of laugh at how bad her English is. Over time, like it's incredible how much she's progressed, because she streams fully in English every day, and that's her full-time job.
Okay.
And it's like if you do that, you're gonna get really good. And you know, she's still a relatively non-fluent, like you can very clearly tell, but just the progress is incredible.
Yeah, I definitely got to give people props like that, because like especially with the pressures of streaming. Like, I'll tell you right now, man,
yeah.
Like, if I had to learn, like, a whole new language in order to stream on Twitch, I don't think I could do it. I really don't think I could.
No, like, can you imagine just going live and streaming in a language that you barely know, and just, like, making it your goal that, like, okay, by this time next year, I'm gonna
How do you read chat?
To go however many hours on stream in my second language. It's like, man, that's got to be so difficult.
It's like, how do you even read chat?
Learn a lot faster, right? How do you read chat? I mean, you just do your best. You just do your best, and you can use translators to help you out a little bit sometimes. But
yeah, it's just it's a process, man. Learning anything is a process, and I feel like a big problem, especially with America, with Americans in general, we do not like things that take time to learn. If we are like, I really feel like, a lot of people in America, I feel like can relate to this. But it's like if you're not good at it from day one, you don't want to do it. And I feel like that's just so extreme here. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the competitive nature. I don't know if it's like Americans have this idea of like certain people belong in like certain work environments if you're like really, really good at like if you're really good at throwing a ball, you're gonna be a ball thrower. If you're really good at working at a factory, you should work in a factory kind of deal. I feel like Americans are way more likely to put people into groups because of that. And that kind of enforces how we learn things.
I'm super guilty of that as well, and I'm also like an extremely competitive person. So whenever there's anything that I suck at first, I have such a strong aversion to it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I really, if it's something that I care about and really want to get better, I have to really force myself. And I fortunately have been able to do that with some things like singing. You know, I've gone from really sucking to being fairly okay. As they say, like sucking at something is being the first step at being kind of good at something, right? But it's like, especially when it comes to games, I tried to learn TFT because I thought that there was never going to be a competitive Battlegrounds scene. And I was like, well, surely I can learn TFT and just be one of the top players in that and compete in that. And after like 2 days, I'm like, fuck this game.
How different is it from Hearthstone? From Battlegrounds, I should say.
I can't understand anything that's going on. The biggest problem I have is that like I'll win a fight and I won't know why I won a fight, and then I'll lose a fight and I won't know why I lost that fight. In Battlegrounds, I can always tell, like, even if it's something I couldn't have done anything about, it's like, well, my 20,000 stat minion just hit into his 1/1 poison. Maybe I would have won if I didn't hit into his poisonous minion.
Yeah.
But in TFT, I'm just like, well, there was a big blue flash and then my guys were dead. So I guess I should do something different, and I'm not sure what.
Yeah, maybe we should get Frodan or Luna in here to explain the intricacies.
Yeah, no, I'd love to talk with one of them sometime, but it's like it's also, it feels like playing on Nosdormu mode. It's like everything in TFT is a decision that you would have to make about 10 times faster than you would have to make the same kind of decision in Battlegrounds. And what's interesting is, like, I'm a relatively fast Battlegrounds player. I'm the type of person who watches others play Battlegrounds and go, you got to go faster, you're going to rope out. And then I watch them as they rope out.
Yep.
But put me in TFT and I'm like reading every single card and I'm like, what does this do? And then my time runs out, you know?
I feel like with the...
So it's like it's very difficult also trying to learn what the things do as they go, and I just can't really tell. Everything has got like 6 stats instead of just like attack and health like in Battlegrounds.
Yeah.
So it's very complicated.
I was about to ask, because like the thing I feel like Hearthstone definitely excels at is it's simple to understand. You look at the card, you kind of understand what it does, and maybe you need to play it once or twice in order to really figure out what it does. And then once you understand how it actually works, you look at the card and you're like, that's exactly what it does. When I look at cards like Magic the Gathering or like other games that have like these like walls of text, it's like I have to keep rereading these cards every single time that I see them. And it's not like with the Hearthstone cards where like I look at the card once or twice and it's learned. It's literally learned.
And I'm a huge fan of simplicity in games, and I don't think it's because I'm stupid or anything like that, but it's just like I would much rather have the complexity come from trying to maximize these tiny decisions with simple cards. Like, there's so many things in Battlegrounds even that it's like, do I put my Nadina first? Do I put my Nadina second and put something first that can knock off one of my opponent's divine shields or whatever it is? It's like there's so many small decisions that you see people mess up even at the 11k 12k level, whatever, that I don't feel like I want the game to have like 7 different additional tribes and types of stats and have all the minions cost different amounts and everything. It's like I'd rather have it be simple. That being said, I do think they took out a lot of the skill of the game recently, but that's a different sort of opinion, I guess.
Just to touch up on it, what exactly do you mean? Because like
there was a recent patch that I think addressed a lot of things that did need to be changed. So what they did is they removed the prizes, which I was a huge fan of, but we knew that they were part-time, so whatever. They removed sort of the Khadgar interaction where you can make a lot of triples at a time, which is a good change because now people can't like just destroy whole lobbies single-handedly, but it was admittedly probably the hardest thing to do in Battlegrounds.
Yes.
So the skill cap is objectively lower now. And they also removed Illustra, the Immortal, which was a 6-star unit. And that card, while it was too strong and probably did need to either be nerfed or deleted, it also added an extremely high level of complexity to the game, in my opinion, and it made the last few fights of every game much more complicated in terms of envisioning how the possible iterations of the fight can go. Because I try to imagine in my mind like what happens if I attack first, what happens if they attack first, that kind of thing. It's a card that can make things really a lot more complicated in some cases, and now it's gone. Yes, it was probably too strong, but now there's like sort of a lower skill level required to play the game, in my opinion.
So just to make sure I know what card you're talking about the Reborn card that redirected attacks directly to it, correct?
Yes.
So did that card have Divine Shield, or did it just have Reborn?
Yeah. It had Divine Shield Reborn, and it was originally a 7/7, then it was a nerf to a 4/4, and then it was deleted.
So do you believe that there's anything they could have done to that card without like just straight up deleting it? Because like that's something that I actually love the balance ideas with with Battlegrounds, is that they're not afraid to just straight up RKO cards or heroes that are a problem.
I think they could have made it a 4/1. Honestly, I didn't think it was really a problem the way it was. Like, I didn't think it was a problem, but I did think it was one of the strongest cards in the game. So it's kind of a call. Like, would you say that Zephrys is a problem in Standard right now? Probably not, but you would say it's one of the strongest cards in the game. That's sort of how I felt about it. But like, I can't be mad that they took it out because like it was a very, very good card. I think if they made it a 4/1, then you keep it with the 4 attacks so that it still kills the opponents in Adina. If you nerf the attack, you actually buff the card. And then the 1 health means that it can more easily die to things like Ghoul.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty realistic way of solving it. Because like I remember like a bunch of like trolling clips with that particular card because of good lord, like you literally just redirect an entire team and your opponent is dismantling you because your attacks are being redirected while theirs are right on the money.
Well, it gave a high level of counterplay, right? Because now what do I do if my opponent is like just huge minions? I have to go full poison. I don't know. I mean, there's still a lot to the game. I think it's in a great state, but I think that it was better. I just liked the last meta so much that by comparison, I'm kind of unhappy right now. But once more new stuff is released, I'm sure it'll be great.
What would you say is one thing that you would change personally in Battlegrounds? Because one thing, like, I only play the mode, I play it extremely casually. If I'm ever doing anything Battlegrounds related, it's because I have some free time, I'm killing time, or I happen to just tune into Celissa and she's completely stomping lobbies.
Yeah, so if I can make a big change, I'm just bringing back Dark Moon prizes. And then you probably delete or nerf the strongest ones. So like on the house, it's way too strong. Nerf it to, instead of discover from your current tier, discover a tier 4. And there's 1 or 2 others that you probably want to nerf as well. But I just loved the prize sort of system in the game, because if you got bad turn 1 or 2 shops, you have that turn 4 to look forward to that lets you sort of get back into it. If you're sort of struggling and you can just hold on until turn 8 and sort of turn things around, it's a nice feeling to me to have that sort of thing to look forward to. And then when you get to that turn, you can potentially power strike and get yourself back in it, as opposed to just feeling like you're getting stopped by Cthulhu because your opponent pressed the hero power button every turn and they just put in a minion and then press the button and it became huge because that's what their hero does. If I was to make a smaller single change, I would just remove Patches. I think Patches is a far too powerful hero to be in the game.
Even if pirates aren't available? Or does he?
Sorry,
Does he?
What's the question?
Even if pirates are available, or does patches not get offered to you if pirates are in the
It only comes
lobby?
up if pirates are available.
Ah, okay. So Battlegrounds is like that. Maybe there's a reason it's still in beta.
I mean, patches is just. I mean, and maybe some people would disagree with me, but it's just a ridiculously powerful hero to the point where I just don't understand how it's still.
Are
in the
you
game
are you
in its current
even
state.
are you even able to do anything but pirates as patches?
I mean, I had somebody showed me a screenshot recently where they got 4 Caligos as patches, but I wouldn't. I would just go pirates every time. And there's 2 pirate comps. You can just make giant pirates that are extremely huge. We'd sort of think of that as APM pirates, because when you get the Hoggars,
Yeah, you can.
you start to have to buy really, really fast and just play every single pirate. The other option is you can go with the Scallywags scam comp. So it's like Scallywags, Eliza, Baron Rivendare, and Khadgar.
Yeah,
and
the
it just
Exodia
summons a whole
OTK.
bunch of- yeah, and it's not really Exodia because it loses once the opponent's minions get big enough, but it's really powerful. It's just good.
Do you believe that interaction was actually intended? Or is it just like one of those things to where like they just kind of like rolled with it? Because I feel like that happens every now and again in standard. But like now that they literally have people like Boar Control, like Gallon on the design team, or I think they're on the final design team, so they can like, make sure cards don't like fall through the holes or anything like that.
My take is that whether it was intended or not in the first place, it now clearly is, because they nerfed Khadgar and didn't address that interaction. So if you were going to make a change to Khadgar, you could have just as easily made a change that also nerfs that deck, or that strategy, I should say. But they didn't, so they must be aware of it and approve of it. And I think that while it is sort of a scam comp and it's kind of cheesy and it's really powerful at the top level, I'd be surprised if people are playing that comp much at 6K or 8K. I think, and I'm obviously a little bit out of the loop here, but I would imagine that you're not seeing it in those lower lobbies. I've only played in 10K, 11K, 12K lobbies for quite a long time now, and in those lobbies it's very common.
Yeah, like I've never gotten above 5K ever.
Mm.
That tells you how bad. Wait, hold on. Wasn't there like a time where like you were literally coaching me as I was like playing Battlegrounds?
That sounds believable, yes.
I think there was like one time I was playing on stream, and it was either you were in chat and I asked you to join me on voice. I don't think it was voice chat. But I specifically
I've done
remember
that for a few people.
I specifically remember you being in chat being like, "You got to move faster. Rope is burning."
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like me. And I'm like I feel like I'm definitely I have a case of being a backseat gamer, but I try to like check to make sure it's okay first. I don't just go into random chats like that, but if it's somebody who I know is okay with it, that like Lorinda has been streaming Battlegrounds, and like he really
wants that,
people,
yeah, literally
right.
asks
so I
for
go
it.
in there and I just like chat it up. So yeah, probably.
Someone like Lorinda though is like you got to be able to find a streamer that is trying to not only engage with their audience, but that is actually trying to learn something from them. So it's like, it like the way that I like to see it is that like there is the term backseat gaming, but there's also like just discussing plays, and I feel like especially at the streamers that are like really really high up there, it's really easy to just like see a play and chat and be like, no, that's a dumb move. Why would you suggest that? Because you're literally playing this game all the time. But it's like whenever I see chats like that, I'm like, I could do that, but. And then if they continue to be, if they're harping, it's like, no, that was 100% incorrect because this is la 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 la. And like if they're being rude about it, then I'll be like, okay, can you ease up on the gas a little bit? Because I'm willing to talk about why I misplayed. Literally, I have a misplay counter on my stream, and the thing that pops up that reminds people to follow is like, hey, if you like my misplays, follow the stream. I know that I'm a bad player, quote unquote. Okay. I think I'm a decent player. I'm a decent player.
You're not actually bad, but everybody's harsh on themselves, right?
Exactly. And it's just like it's because I'm comparing myself to people like Orange. Like Orange would be someone that I would.
Way, right?
Yeah.
I'm the same way, like, especially with my standard play. Not so much with Battlegrounds. I think in Battlegrounds, I have, like, a stubborn belief that I'm one of the best players in the world, which is probably not totally true. But in standard, I'm, like, low 11x gamer, so I get, like, Legend 1500. And I'm like, I know that there's a lot of people way better than me, but, like, I guess objectively, I'm pretty good, like, compared to most people out there.
Hearthstone
game.
Hearthstone players, I hate saying this, but I really believe that a lot of Hearthstone players aren't that good. They're really not.
Well, and I mean, if I compare myself to, like, the Masters Tour players, I suck. But if I compare myself to most of the player base, I'm fantastic.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's the thing that kind of sucks about Legend, is that even someone like me, who, like, okay, I can do pretty well in a tournament. If, like, I need to be able to prep for a tournament, because I feel like if I actually had a reason to do well in a tournament, every single major I've been to, I've done 5-4 or better. Every single one that I've been in. So it's like, when I have a reason to do well and I have, like, the time to actually train and think about what I want to play, I know that I can do pretty well. But the problem is that I literally have not been able to do a best in 5 tournament for so freaking long that I don't remember what they're like. All I've been doing is open cup best of 3s, and to be honest, I'm losing my mind.
Oh, yeah, it's an easy way to lose your mind, actually.
Yeah.
And if you want to accelerate that, then play on all 3 servers like some people do.
I literally tried to do some Asia Cups, and I did 1 cup. After literally going through my entire collection, getting rid of cards, I spent the $5 in order to get that classic bundle. And I ended up getting, like, 4 legendaries out of, like, all those packs. That was yes. But then I literally went 0-1. Or I'm sorry, then I literally 0-1 dropped the tournament, and it's like, wow, people are insane.
I did 2 servers for a good while, but it is just not good for my mental health.
I feel like it'd probably be easiest to qualify in Asia, to be honest, because it's the least amount of people.
Without a doubt, there's just fewer competitors.
Yeah. And that's the main reason why I decided to take up an Asia account, was because if I was going to do something, there's no way I'm signing up on EU. Are you kidding me? Sign up for the most competitive circuit with probably, like, debatably the best Hearthstone players that have ever picked up the game. Like, I hate being an American fan and saying this, but if someone wants to shift through this VOD and at me with the fact that I believe that EU is the best region, if they really want to call me out on one time where it's like, yeah, I want to support for Americas, I will go ahead and say that I believe that EU, as of March 15th, 2021, is the best Hearthstone region, because they have the best players and the most consistent results.
My take is that the very best of the best players from around the world are probably about the same level, but there is just such an enormous amount more of them in Europe than there is in Americas or Asia Pacific. Like, when we're talking about, like, somebody like Luna, or even Eddie, who didn't do well in this past Masters Tour, but is a great player. I would put them up against Dead Draw or Gabby or whoever, but there's just so many people you can name from Europe who are at that level, just compared to America's. Like
Yarla, Hunter Ace, is Fino technically EU? I think so.
Yeah.
Fino's EU. Crane's another huge one. Really, all we have is, like,
you can see it with the promotions to the Grandmasters. There's, like, so they accumulate points now. It used to be based on prize money, but they accumulate points for their Grandmasters promotions, and it's just, like, so much harder to get into Europe Grandmasters compared to America's. Like, and the cutoff is, like, way higher.
I would say that, like, some of the best players that NA has right now, outside of, like, typical Grandmasters, because obviously they got there, they deserve that. I would say that the 2 people that immediately come to mind are McBanterface and Ego Waffle. Like, they are just absolutely monsters on the ladder. I have no idea how they do it.
Well in one Masters Tour.
Yes.
Ego
Ego usually goes
another
6-3.
Like far enough back, but
Ego usually goes like 6-3 from what I see, because I usually root for him.
He's got a 7-2, and Mick Base went 8-1 this time.
Wow, really?
So, yeah, I mean, definitely shout out to those guys.
Yeah, Mick GM face win. He's actually like, I think he's got the best contention for running for American
first currently.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
But it's like if a single person makes top 8 of a Masters tour, they jump into first.
Okay,
that's where it's at right now.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Because for this qualification period, there is no America's player who has made top 8 of a Masters tour who isn't already Grandmaster. So it's
step up your game, America.
It's pretty and this time there were 3 in top 16, but they just unfortunately didn't make top 8.
Yeah.
So next time, it's like very likely that the next Masters tour could just have like 3 Americas in top 8 potentially, and then they leapfrog everybody, and suddenly McBanterface is no longer in the running. But it doesn't necessarily happen that way. I will say, I believe Fled and Papa Jason are the only players to have made Grandmasters without getting a top 8 at any point. So it's not super likely that someone gets Grandmasters without a top 8, but it's possible.
Yeah, just hoping that America will do pretty well in the next Masters Tour. But I also believe that there were no French players in the top brackets this time, which is definitely weird.
Top, I think there were 2 Belgian players, and a lot of the French fans were cheering for the Belgian players by the end. At least that's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah, I've only been checking out what was on Twitter. I only saw like 3 games, to be honest. I was doing a lot of editing and stuff like that. And unfortunately for me, I can't edit and watch videos at the same time. I'm watching 2 different videos at the same time. I'm gonna miss something.
Yeah. Understandable. I've been really following along with the Masters tours, but it's gotten to the point where it's like I don't even know how much I want to watch the games as much as I just like want to cheer for my friends.
Literally the same thing, man. Because like I will definitely like want to know results when it's all said and done. But like the first game that was streamed was a pre-smear. You can't make me sit through that.
Yeah.
And something else that I feel like they should do is they gotta. I don't care about the GMs on the stream anymore. You have got to, 100% got to, give highlights to the players that work so hard to not only qualify for these tournaments, but actually have results every single time. There was, I feel like, I think it was Boston versus Bunny Hopper, I feel like. How many times have we seen that matchup?
I have a theory, though, which is that a large part of the reason they stream those players is because they
do it for views,
have
100%.
Webcams.
For webcams? Ooh. That actually could be a legitimate thing, because like usually they just want to go for like the GMs and stuff, because it's it's players that are recognizable and stuff like that. That's the easy guess.
You want to get as many views as possible, but if they really wanted to get views, they would like actually promote their stream in the slightest way. And
speak up louder for those in the back.
And in theory they would do it on Twitch rather than YouTube, but yeah, that's sort of my theory, is that it probably makes it a lot easier on production when it's players that they know and that they can put on broadcast with their webcam and not be worried about anything.
Yeah, like production, like especially since I've been doing a lot more of a production with House Rivalries. Huge shout out to Bemi Esports for quite literally giving the rest of the Hearthstone scene even a chance to compete.
Shout out to Bemi. I've worked with Bemi on WSOE tournaments.
Absolutely monster in the Hearthstone community. But yeah, like if it wasn't for all the stuff that I've been doing with like House Rivalries, like I've been able to like look at broadcasts and be like, this is what's going on behind the scenes that's causing this to happen. Like case in point, there was a lot of times where like where TJ was like, there's like a long bit of silence, and then he would start talking, and I'm like, dude, he's literally going in between screens. Like, what is he doing? I don't know. But like I've literally been in that moment where it's like my other caster's waiting for me to say something, but I'm like looking at the deck or something like that in mid thought, and it's like, crap, what do I do here? And I feel like a lot of people, like you can make your assumptions on whatever casters that you like, But if you're literally like, why aren't they talking? It's like, dude, it's a card game. You gotta let them think a little bit. Like, you can't just be speaking all the time, because then you're gonna be complaining that they're saying something wrong because you didn't give them the 2 seconds to think about their sentence. And like,
yeah, and I would say I'm one of the people who is among the least critical of the casters, and sometimes I disagree with things they say, sure, but there's so many people who are just so vicious, and I'm like, man, a lot of the times they're really not doing a bad job.
my only rule when it comes to casting is that if I am not talking about the game, why am I talking? Because like I understand like during like pre-smears, during like warrior mirrors, you have to banter a little bit back and forth, especially in these high level tournaments, because they're gonna rope every single turn. So these games are literally gonna take an hour long. That's just inevitable. So in that kind of situation, I don't mind. But like if it's like an aggro matchup and decisions are being made, it's like, dude, I don't want to hear jokes right now. I want you to talk about this game, and it kind of makes me upset.
I don't mind too much, but there's definitely those times where you're like, oh, I really wish that they would talk about that decision that just happened there.
Yeah, and it makes me upset as like a caster, where it's like, dude, I would be talking about this literally nonstop and being like, what do you think this was correct? Was this the right move? Is this optimal? Like, there are so many questions that you could spin off of like almost every single decision in Hearthstone, but then they just talk about a joke. I don't want to hear the joke. I want to hear the decisions being made. Practicing those rudiments.
Definitely. What's that?
Practicing those rudiments.
Oh, sorry. I have the incessant tapping syndrome that I think.
Literally, I have the same thing.
Percussionist has.
My teachers would often kick me out of class because of me just like tapping with pencils.
Right. Like, but it's so hard to control because it's not something I'm conscious of.
I'm always like tapping with my feet and stuff like that. Like. Just twitching, stuff like that.
Yeah. But someday I'm gonna be really good at bongos or something, and it's all gonna be because I practiced on my desk.
Well, I mean, finger taps are very important. Like hand drums and stuff like that. Like being able to like throw your thumb the right way in order to like hit the drum in that sweet spot. It's very important.
I really wish there was a way that I could explain to people how difficult of an instrument tambourine is, but like people's just they're not gonna listen to me. I
have my own opinion, but go ahead and give yours, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna say the same thing about tambourine. But it's like there's a way you shake it. There's a way you shake it.
The tambourine is an instrument where you can give it to the person in your band who doesn't know what they're doing and tell them to do this, but you could also really take it seriously, and it's an instrument that I think has a lot of like history and a lot that you can do with it that people don't understand, like, and sort of frame drums in general. I guess there's sort of this like broader category of frame drums that include drums like the pandero, and these drums are so difficult to play. You're managing, like, one hand is sort of controlling the jingles essentially, but also like all sorts of rhythmic craziness, and the other hand you need to be really good at different sort of tapping and rolls with your thumb or your fingers, and there's just so much to it that people don't see, because what they think of when they think of a tambourine is the person on stage who doesn't know what they're doing, who's shaking it back and forth, and they're not thinking of there's two things they're not thinking of. They're not thinking of the classical musician who's playing some sort of complicated part, and they're not thinking of the similar instruments like the pandero and the different Latin American drums, which are quite similar to tambourines, but have like a long history and just a ridiculous amount of talent involved. So that's sort of my rant about tambourines and frame drums in general.
Honestly, like, I would say that everything you said is 100% what I would probably want to reflect, because like I said earlier, there was somebody that I got lessons from for like percussion, stuff like that, and yes, we did mostly focus on like on like keyboards and stuff like that because that was my main weakness. But we would touch up on like some Latin instruments and isn't the pandero is what we said?
The pandero, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that one like it's kind of like a tambourine, but it's got like an actual like head on the drum?
Well, most tambourines do have a head, but yeah, the pandero is like a Brazilian drum, although I believe there's similar instruments in Spain and probably in different places as well. It's got some differences in terms of like how it's constructed, but it's very similar. But it's the pandero I feel like is an instrument that people take a lot more seriously, and maybe somebody from Brazil could explain better than I could, but there's such a history of it and people who are masters of it specifically as an instrument who can do all sorts of ridiculous rhythmic crap on it that I couldn't dream of, you know?
Yeah, I guess it isn't the instrument that I thought it was then, because like I had my instructor who oh God, was he? Is he from Brazil? Oh God, yeah, he actually was. Yeah, he was from Brazil actually. So that's the reason why like I got a lot of like really good useful information out of him, because he literally grew up with like the style of music like Latin American beats and whatnot. So like there was definitely a day though that like he taught me like the proper way of playing a tambourine. Because there is the right way. Because a lot of people don't realize that you could just like tap it and get like literally the same exact reaction out of it than like you would do like just slamming it. Except it's a lot more controlled.
There's all sorts of stuff. Just with the hand that I'm holding it with, I can shake a rhythm.
Yes.
And then fill in with the other hand taps. Just whatever, you know. And then I can do a one-handed roll, or I can do a roll with the other hand where you create friction by dragging your finger across the head of the drum, which is usually called a thumb roll, even if you do it with not your thumb, because for some reason that term stuck. There's a lot to it that people don't think about. There's a lot of the time you'll hit it against your knee, at least in classical music. So if I need to play it loud and fast, I have a fist here, I have it in my other hand, I'm hitting it against my knee, and then my fist back and forth. That kind of, you know, things that people don't think about, you know. There's just more to it.
And that's
just more to it.
That's why music is a beautiful thing. Whatever you think it is, it's probably slightly more ingenuitive or intriguing than you actually think it is.
With instruments especially, like you can be that kind of reductive about any instrument, right? I can say that piano's the easiest instrument to play because you just have to push the keys down, but that would be a silly way to think of it, right?
Yeah.
You can do that with any instrument, I think.
You just blow into it. Just hit it with the stick.
There's like very few instruments that are really like super simple, and the ones that are like ones where that person's also probably doing 80 other things. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you that like one of those crank sirens is like the craziest thing to do because you just crank it and it makes a siren sound, but probably the person who's doing that is also playing bass drum and 7 cymbals and snare drum and a ratchet and a triangle, and you know.
Yeah, literally the entire auxiliary percussion all in one.
Right.
All right, man. We're about to reach the 3-hour mark, and I actually do have to take my girlfriend into work tomorrow morning, so I think I have to call it here. Lulnenko, do you have any closing remarks that you have? Any self-promotions? Phil, this is your time. Do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, I would just say, well, if I'm going to self-promote, I coach Battlegrounds. You can contact me on Twitter if you're interested in a Battlegrounds.
His links will be down below.
But even if not, check me out on Twitter, twitter.com/lulnenko. If you want to check me out on Twitch, it's also Lulnenko, although I don't stream frequently, so don't expect frequent streams. But
yeah, I just now this week posted a streaming schedule, so it literally took me 3 years. So don't be surprised if it takes you a while.
I had a schedule for like 2 weeks, and then I realized I don't want to be a streamer professionally. I'd rather just stream occasionally, talk to my friends who show up, talk to anybody else who shows up, maybe wants to learn about Battlegrounds or just hang out. So yeah, it's like a once a month, twice a month.
Well, I'll definitely be in your chat next time that you're live, as long as I'm not live myself.
Gotcha.
But lulnenko, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today in this wonderful episode of Hearth and Home Podcast. If you guys are enjoying this stuff, feel free to like and to subscribe if you're listening to on YouTube. And to the people that are listening to this on Spotify, well, congratulations, we're finally on Spotify. I mean, as of right now, as I'm recording this, I have not had anything on there, but I will be going through that this next week to where hopefully this will be live on Spotify when I actually release it. But thank you guys so much for watching or for listening or whatever you're doing to enjoy this media, and we will see you guys next time. Have a good one.